got Miss Stutter? Okay, it's 7:05. We'll get started. I'm gonna try to go slow and calm and just looks like I'm getting off of. I'm losing myself. Just kind of Just want to make sure I got everything here. Real quick, yeah. What's the name? Probably more than $1. Okay, ladies, we all ready? Everybody ready? Okay, we have a little bit after 7, so we will start the meeting here. I'd like to invite Miss Ashley Gilhausen to lead us in the invocation and pledge.
If you would stand with me. Father God, what a privilege it is to gather and assemble in a free country, Lord, that was bought with the bloodshed of many brave men and women, Lord, and we are so thankful for that. I pray, Lord, that as we conduct the business of this school district tonight, Lord, that you would be with us here in this place, that your presence would bring a spirit of peace, Father, and that we would conduct this meeting in a way that is glorifying to you. And it's in your name that we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the Clay County School Board meeting, the regular meeting of October 15th, 2015. I'd like to welcome all the citizens of Clay County. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to attend tonight's school board meeting. This meeting is our opportunity as your elected representatives to collaborate openly and make decisions that will decide the future direction of our public schools and the education of our children here in Clay County. If you wish to address the board, there will be an opportunity to speak for 3 minutes. Please fill out a yellow card, which you will find located in the back of the room. Indicate the specific item number on the agenda or the topic that you wish to speak about and turn it in promptly. No additional cards will be accepted once the board moves to the discussion agenda. And as always, your participation is welcome and appreciated. With that said, before we start, I would just like to make an additional comment to the audience, and that is that it is our job here as your elected representatives to conduct the business of the school board. And when we have this meeting, that is what we are doing, and we're doing it in the sunshine, and you guys are invited in to participate and to watch. But it's not intended to be open dialogue back and forth. You guys are given the opportunity to speak by using these 3-minute cards. And so I just want to remind people of that as we're conducting the business of the school board, it is not appropriate for people to be yelling in the back of the room and to be hollering out and heckling and things like that. So we're going to be respectful of you guys when you speak, and we're going to ask you to be respectful of us. So I just wanted to make that comment. Okay. Before we move to the adoption of the consent agenda, I just would like to note that one item has been pulled to discussion, and that is item C3. And
See, two or three?
C3 has been pulled, and I don't think we decided we were going to pull C2.
Yeah, I said I do
You
want
had
to.
asked, okay.
Yeah.
So Ms. Studdard has requested to pull item C2, which is the scheduling of the regular November board meeting for Tuesday, November 17th. She wanted to pull it just to have some discussion on it, so that's fine. Okay, so we will move that one as well. So let me just make mention of that.
I move the consent agenda except for the items pulled.
I second. Okay, I have a motion. Hold on one second. We still have more cards? Okay, I'm sorry. Hold on one
Hold on.
second. Oh, C3 and C6. Well, okay. All right. Is that it? Is there any others? Okay. Okay. All right, so before we adopt the consent agenda, we do have an item that somebody has requested to speak to. Actually, they requested to speak to items C3 and C6. C3 has been pulled to discussion, so we'll let you come up when that one is brought up. But C6 has not been pulled, so it's on the consent agenda. And that is referencing the legislative priorities, and it's Travis Christensen. So come on up.
Person who was here. Travis Christensen, 2871 Affirmed Court. Just want to mention, it's about the same legislative agenda as every year. I just want to point out something is that the legislature has become expert in ignoring everyone involved with education. I think about a week or so ago, I saw Mrs. Condon at the legislative delegation giving what I thought was a very well-spoken, heartfelt presentation to our state legislatures, and I don't believe that they are going to lift one single finger for what seem like legitimate concerns. So what I would say to this board, and really the public in general, these three people who are the two state representatives and state senator for Clay County are our representatives. I mean, going to Tallahassee, that's one option for the school board, but going to your local state representative is an option that's open to every single citizen in this county. And I would say to everyone, if you have an issue with a state policy for education, go to your legislator, because I don't think anyone ever does, and it has allowed them to completely ignore everything related to education in Clay County. Now, for a number of years, as long as I've been going to school board meetings, people have placed a lot of pride in the Clay County schools. Clay schools are A schools. They still say that they're A schools, B schools, B's still pretty good. But we can't have our local representatives ignoring something that is so important to so many people in Clay County. Please lean on them, and they're going to ignore you, and if you get mad, they're going to act like you're the problem. But talk to your representative on state issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Christensen. Okay, so I'll entertain a motion for adoption of the consent agenda.
You have a motion.
I already have a motion on the table and a second. So a motion made by Ms. Studdard, and the second was by Ms. Karakis. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, next we move to recognitions and awards. Mike Wingate is going to make an introduction here.
Thank you. We're always proud to recognize and honor our teachers when they have won an award. They do such a great job, so hardworking people. And so tonight we have one person we want to recognize tonight. They are the winner of the Warren Tracy Beginning Teacher Award. that's sponsored by Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, and so we're very proud of that. The fact that a Clay County teacher, and let me tell you a little bit about this award. It's given by the Florida Council of Social Studies Teachers, and it's to recognize and celebrate the accomplishments of a social studies teacher new to the field of education. In fact, one of the requirements is that you have to have 3 years or less service to the education field, and so this person obviously meets that. They also have to turn in a portfolio along with many other items. So this is a person that is described by the principal as engaging students in meaningful lessons to increase student awareness, who is very involved with the school and community activities, and they are leaders in their community and at their school. And so we're very proud of this award. This is statewide, so we ought to certainly honor that person, and she's here tonight. We want to recognize Ms. Sharon Moore from Lake Asbury Junior High. Ms. Moore.
I didn't know I was speaking tonight, but I just would like to say I'm very honored to receive this award on behalf of Clay County and all the other teachers that are working just as hard. And I'm very thankful to be in this community, especially Lake Asbury. I thank Kathy Richardson for giving me the opportunity and Becky Murphy for continuing to let me go do the things that I like to do and influence all the children in our community. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next recognition award is Stephen McCloskey, the Healthy School Program Manager, Alliance for a Healthier Generation.
Thank you and good evening, Superintendent Van Zandt, Madam Chair, honorable board members, and citizens of Clay County. I have some good news for you tonight. My name is Steve McCloskey. I'm not here representing where I work, the Alliance for a Healthier Generation, but I'm a member of the executive committee of a bigger group called the Florida Coordinated School Health Partnership in Florida. And the Action for Healthy Kids, as a local representative of this statewide health consortium, it is my great pleasure to present the Silver Level Florida Healthy School District Award flag to the School District of Clay County this evening. The Coordinated School Health Partnership is a grassroots partnership whose members represent non-for-profits such as the American Heart Association, American Cancer Association, Florida Y, Florida Action for Healthy Kids, my organization, the Alliance for a Healthier Generation, professional associations, hospital dentists, pediatricians, family practitioners, optometrists, school nurse, health educators, physical educators, insurers, Florida PTA, and other health advocates. The primary purpose of the Coordinated School Health Partnership is to advocate for school health issues, promotes science-based school health and wellness models, and to recognize excellence among Florida school districts. The primary purpose, the Florida Coordinated School Health Partnership, Action for Healthy Kids, and the Association of District School Superintendents, and our newest partner sponsor, Florida Healthy Kids Corporation, applaud your district for establishing a culture and climate in which students and staff can reach their personal potential and continue to serve as a leader in the state in reducing and eliminating barriers to learning. Experts from state agencies, school districts, and community partners created an assessment tool to evaluate and inform districts on how to achieve the highest standards in infrastructure for the 8 component areas of the Center for Disease Control and Prevention's Coordinated School Health Model. These 8 areas we assess and that we rate for the applications that come in from the counties and districts are health education, physical education, health services, nutrition services, counseling, psychological and social services, healthy school environment, employee wellness, parent and community involvement. The 3 levels of achievement of distinction are bronze with a 50 to 60% score, silver 67 to 80% score, and gold 86 to 100% score. Worthy of note of achievement that my brief time tonight with you is that the School District of Clay County particularly demonstrated outstanding policy and process in 4 of the following areas. Physical education. Physical education provides the skills to become and remain physically active for a lifetime. Studies show that students who are physically active perform better academically. You scored 81%. Health services, one of the 2 highest in the state on this particular grade that we gave you. School health services remove health-related barriers to attendance, performance, and academic success. You scored the 2nd highest, 97%. Wow. Thank you, Donna. Yes. Counseling, psychological, and social services. Engagement and a feeling of being cared for, vital attendance, retention, performance, and ultimately graduation depend on this. And you got an 81% score in our evaluation. And finally, the next highest one is healthy school environment. A healthy school environment reflects the physical plant as well as the social climate of the district. This includes safety, personal interactions, and violence prevention. You scored 85%. The Florida Coordinated School Health Partnership and Florida Action for Healthy Kids look forward to continuing to support and promote the efforts of the 36 Florida counties who achieved these distinctions, and your efforts to produce healthy, literate, and health-practicing students who achieve higher academically enjoy a higher quality of life and health. These healthy environments in these schools, I can't emphasize this enough. The studies show when there's a healthy environment, kids develop healthy habits for a lifetime. We all know the developmental process, and it sticks, but it's got to be in there young. And if they're practicing at school where they're there for at least 50% of their time, this is the place to do it, and we applaud you and thank you for being at the forefront of this very important thing. So congratulations, Clay County Schools. And I'd like to have Donna and the SHAC team members come up for a photo opportunity, and I'll present the flag at that time. And if we could have the school members come down to the front, and we'll have a photo op, please.
You want the wellness, Sheila? You're part of this, our wellness committee.
Thank you. Let's give them applause.
Thank you very much, Mr. McCloskey. Okay, next, under presenters, we have Miss Kathy Schofield is going to come on up and make a presentation for the Clay County Education Foundation.
So good evening and thank you. I'm not wearing my normal STEM hat today. I'm wearing my Education Foundation hat, and I'd like to tell you that we're very pleased that we've made an affiliation with the Regional STEM Hub out of Jacksonville, and through that they have provided a donation of $25,900 to the Education Foundation, which is going to be able Thank you. Which is going to be able to expand our robotics program and our after-school STEM clubs into the schools that have not been served by the DODEA grants to date. So now I'm pleased to let you know that all of our high schools and all of our junior highs will have a robotics program. And on top of that, we've been able to expand further into the elementary schools. Now, not only did the STEM Hub donate the $25,900 to the foundation, but through state matching funds, we were able to double that commitment. So we'll be able to move forward with a donation of $52,000 that is earmarked to go to those STEM programs. So you tonight approved some supplements that will be going to the teachers who have stepped up to lead these programs. We're thrilled to present this to you, so I'd like a little photo op too. I have a lovely check to present.
You want all of us again?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Hey, this is our night, girls.
And I also just wanted to add, our president, Matt Hutchins, was trying to make it on time, and he is a soccer coach who gives so much to the community. So I apologize that he didn't make it in time, but know that it's everyone working together that's able to bring this to the school district. So thank you.
Thank you very much. That's amazing. Okay. Okay, our next item is scheduled citizens request. Now, we originally didn't have a scheduled citizens request on the agenda, but we did add one at the last minute. And so at this time, Ms. Mackey, I'd like to invite you to the podium. Please state your name and address for the record. Ms. Mackey, before you begin, I just need to strongly advise you that I know that you're here to talk about a situation with your son, but I must also advise you that in your, when you speak, you may not speak about any other child in this school district because you'll be violating student privacy rights. So you may speak about your child, but you may not mention names of any other child, okay? So I just want to...
Before my time has started, am I able to speak about coaches, staff members,
You can
board members?
speak about whatever you like as long as you do not violate our policy. And our policy says you may not be profane, disrespectful, or disorderly or disruptive. Okay, so just as I mentioned earlier in the meeting, and I don't think you were here yet, but I mentioned that we're here to conduct the business of the school board, and we do so respectively. We're respecting your wishes to speak to the board, but at the same time, we will expect you to be professional as well. So you have the podium. You have 10 minutes.
All right, well, thank you for that wonderful
Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Brandy Mackey, 1500 Calming Water Drive, Fleming Island, Florida, 32003. So thank you for that introduction. Again, I'm here to address the concerns of the behavior of the Fleming Island High School principal, coaches, and school board members. Had I known some of the rules and policies beforehand, I would have read up on them myself. I am frustrated because we were asked to be here at 5 o'clock to have a private meeting, and for whatever reason it was delayed. So that's why I appreciate the opportunity to speak in front of you guys tonight. I'm sorry that I have to bring such heavy news and heavy heart after you've won and received all these beautiful awards. It's never been my intention to bring anything but goodness to the community, because I am a member of the community. I have a business in the community, and that's my wishes. So let me apologize in advance, because any and everything that I'll be able to say in 10 minutes is not to be used as disrespectful to you, but these are the things and the phrases that have been used towards me. So I'm just merely quoting phrases and things that the teachers have said to me and things like that. And at this time, you know, I am emotionally explosive too, as you may well know.
Well, let me just There could be
Are
no
you taking off my
obscenity.
are you taking off
There
my
is
10
no
minutes?
obscenity or vulgarity allowed, so you'll have to find it. Just
Oh,
keep that in mind.
Okay, well, again, my son was put off the football team for vulgarity, which is a heavy thing that's used by football coaches and teachers. I don't know, is ass a bad word? Is that considered a bad
Yes,
word?
yes.
Okay, well, I would think that it's a bad word too when a coach that you all have chosen to put in front as a head coach comes into my place of business and asks me, where's your lazy ass boy at? I mean, that's not something I would normally use, and I don't know how that would make you feel if I came up to the board members today and said, well, hey, how your lazy ass is doing? I mean, that's not appropriate, and that's what was said to me at my place of business regarding my son, also my second son. That's a 9-year-old, a 4th grader here. He asked me, and this is Coach Springs, which is the head coach right now that they've chosen to do. And this was all presented on record. I did let Coach Hall know about it. I also let Pittman know about it. The athletic directors know about it. I don't think I really had the opportunity to tell Mr. Van Zant because I was so emotional about the way you all have handled me. But he was kicked off the team for using profanity. Another student, which let me strike that because I don't want to talk about another student, but your school, one of your coaches in your district came into my restaurant and said those words to me. He also then began to berate me because I'm defending my child. He was sick. He was unable to make practice. My mother-in-law had a heart attack, which they have mandatory practices during the summer, which I just found out that that's not allowed under policy. And I don't know if it's true because it's something that another person here told me. But he said that he can see why my children has excuses. At that time, I was very upset. I told him that he can't come into my place of business and speak to me like that. A week later, he's kicked off the team. And he's kicked off the team for reasons like he's defiant and he used profanity. To kick a student off a team for that is egregious, and that's another word that Mr. Wingate used to me, and this whole situation. You know, these are quotes that other your staff members have used towards me that we all know the reason why Brandon was kicked off the team. Well, I don't know the reason. No one has given me anything in writing, anything verbally, and when we tried to address the issue today, you all decided not to meet with me or talk to me about it. So again, it is not my choice or my desire to bring this in front of the school board or to any of the parents because I love Fleming Island. I live out here. I built my business out here, and it's quite embarrassing to even have to bring this to your attention. Coach Hall, which I feel like he was a very good man, recently was let go, and before this happened, the day that my son was put off the team, he tells me and my husband, well, I can take my son with the other 3 boys to Trinity, which those have some racial undertones to it. The other 3 boys that left, they're not in the school district. I don't know their names. You feel free to pull them up, but they happen to be chocolate like myself. Trinity is not here in Fleming Island. I've just opened my business, which, you know, this is a day for me to celebrate, and I'm in here dealing with this hardship. I've been open 5 months, okay? And to have to come in here and deal with this, we chose to open a business across the street from Fleming Island. We support the Fleming Island teachers. We give them 10% discounts. Someone put an ad in the paper for us saying, go get them, Brandon. And for this to happen is embarrassing. But again, I have tried every resource to rectify this situation before having to come in front of this community and also letting other people know in the community the real egregious act that has been done to me and my family. This has been a great distraction. It has been has had an emotional effect. At the same time, it's been, and you know, again, I don't know, I'm trying not to cross the boundaries with students, but when students are harassing my child, saying that he's a snitch and he's green because I'm standing up for him, that's wrong. No one's doing anything about it. And I feel that that's not right. And I did, again, try every effort to come in front of each and every one, not each and every one of you, I'm sorry, because I don't know some of you, but especially Mr. Vincent, Mr. Wingate, and also Mr. Sykes. I do document everything, and I do have recordings because of miscommunications like this. I feel like it was very wrong. Somebody had the power to reinstate my son because in the state of law, if a police officer got in trouble for, you know, he busted people and now he's under investigation, they would relook at those cases and probably most of them would be overturned. You know, right now, I have nothing against Mr. Hall. He was very, very nice to my family. This is very hurtful for my son to think that that's how he thought of him and that he continued to call him lazy, 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 and berate him like that. This is hurtful to him. But he's been suspended for reasons you all know very well, and I don't think it's because of health reasons. And nothing has been done. And then you put a person that talks to a parent in a disrespectful manner as a head coach. That's a slap in my face. And especially when people knew about it and they could do something about it. All I asked was, short-term goal was to reinstate my son back on the team. He is a junior. He is missing out on some of the best times of his life. My husband and I closed our business early to go to the Clay game so we could watch him play. Even though the game didn't come out to where we wanted it, we still was here to support you all. I closed my business at 4 o'clock today because I wanted to come in here to meet with you all. And no one had the courtesy to reach out to me by email, by phone, by certified mail, by pony, by walking across the street to say, hey, Miss Mackey, you know what, we're not ready to hear this, but we're working on it. And so, yeah, that does make me real upset, and then it turns to being hurt because I did nothing wrong in this but stand up for my son and stand up for the legacy of my business. My son back there, he's been going to school since he's a kindergartner here. I'm fighting for him because we will be here in Fleming Island whether parents like it or not. This is where we've chose to make our home. I'm not the one to be quiet and let people roll over on me. So either you fix it or you get out or you move. And it's really sad that it's not being fixed when it's only, all that had to be done is be compassionate, be caring, be gentle. You don't even know me, ma'am, and you just assumed that I was going to come up here and act a plumb fool or cuss or whatever else because no one took the chance to reach out to me and even say, you know what, ma'am, we're sorry about what happened to you. We don't know everything, but I want to investigate and see what's going on. I still have not received any kind of paperwork to even know the real reason of what happened. That's not fair. And so I'll, 26 seconds later, I'll return it back. Thank you guys for taking the time to put me on the board. But things have to be done. And what I ask for as a short-term resolution tonight is my son be placed back on the team with his teammates. All harassing rumors stop immediately. And Coach Springs be removed because he is not capable of coaching a football team of these young men that they deserve better.
Thank you.
Hi, if I may be allowed to introduce myself.
I'm sorry, sir.
I'm a
She has, I know you are, sir. She only had 10 minutes, so we're finished. Thank you. You can be seated. I just want to state for the record, I know Mrs. Mackey had made several references to the board refusing to meet with her today, but I do just want to state for the record that the reason why the board could not meet with her today was because it was not a legal meeting. There is no Florida statute that allows us to have that kind of a meeting outside of the sunshine, and that's why we had to bring her and let her come in and speak tonight. So I just want to state that for the record. Ms. Becky, it's not that we didn't want to meet with you, it's that we couldn't. And so that's why we gave you the spot on the scheduled citizens request and let you come and speak for 10 minutes. So just wanted to state that for the record. So thank you very much.
Ms. McCannon, I'd like
Yes.
to say something.
Yep.
We listened to Ms. Mackey, and it sounds like we know that as a board, this is not something that we can overturn or overrule,
Exactly.
that this falls under the superintendent's purview. I'd like to ask the superintendent to please investigate this if necessary. I don't know, Mr. Van Zandt, if you've met with her or not, but it does stop with you, what you decide. If you decide to back your principal and coach, it stops with you. This is your decision to make. And so I would like to ask you to meet with Ms. Mackey, meet with the coach, meet with the principal, and make a decision on this so that she'll have resolution one way or the other.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Sykes?
The school board has adopted a policy. 4.20 says the following. If a misunderstandings arise between parents and teachers over student-teacher relations or other educational matters, parents may obtain information leading to a conference with teachers concerned by telephoning the principal's office. Questions arising from misunderstanding other than those covered below should be directed to the principal of the school. With respect to educational matters, the order of appeal shall be from student to teacher, from teacher to principal, from principal to superintendent, and from superintendent to the school board. Orders to appeal as described above should not be construed by any student, teacher, or other staff member to mean that he is not free to approach the superintendent or the district school board whenever he so desires. Now, as such, the mother had the opportunity and the right to speak today, but as I said before, I believe that under this proceeding, she does have the ability to have a disciplinary hearing with the school board members, the school board, at a proper time, and at that time, she's entitled to due process. The problem that you have is Chapter 119 is silent on this, but when you take a look under Section 1002.22, it talks about the confidentiality of student records, so we have the duty at the same time to allow her, in my opinion, to have this appellate proceeding with the board. It is not open to it shouldn't be open to the public, and that she has the ability to have this conversation. So I would recommend that this matter be set at the next disciplinary hearings, and we give the mother the ability to address her concerns to the board. And I do believe, I said it before and I'll say it again, I don't believe that we are banned from doing this under Chapter 119, because Chapter 119 has exceptions, and one of the exceptions is student records. And as such, I believe she's entitled to the right to have an appeal of this matter in accordance with 4.20 established policy procedure by this board. She has the ability to appeal. So I think this ought to be set for that hearing.
Ms. McKinnon, policy 4.20 talks about educational only. It does not talk about athletics. Athletics is a voluntary extracurricular sporting event activity that students are participate in. It does not talk about athletics. It talks about educational only. So I don't think you're interpreting that correct.
Student-teacher relations or other educational matters is very broad-based.
Educational.
Madam Chairman, could I
Okay.
say something?
And then we're going to move on.
Yeah. I felt bad when I heard what Ms. Mackey said, because it made it look like we just
Right.
decided not to meet. The Florida state statutes are very specific about when a board can meet out of the sunshine. In other words, a shade meeting. That's collective bargaining. We can have attorney-client sessions, but there's nothing in statutes that I could find, or the FSBA people I talked to could find, that gives us a right to meet in the shade when we have had instances, not like this, but a similar thing where someone wanted to address the board. They had to come to the board in an open meeting in the sunshine. I would be very, very reluctant and wouldn't, at this point, not agree to have a shade meeting on this issue until someone can show me in statutes that it is legal. In my opinion, this is something that when the coach was approached and then it went to the principal, the next step is to go to the superintendent. The superintendent is in charge of the day-to-day operations of the school district. This board sets policy and budget. In my opinion, we don't have any authority or jurisdiction to decide who is or is not on a football team. That is not why we are here, and we don't have any jurisdiction or authority to determine that. So that's the way I feel about it, and I am most uncomfortable to set up a shade meeting at this stage of the game until someone can show us that it's legal, because we didn't meet today because we didn't want to do something illegal.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Mr. Van Zant.
Okay, just so everybody's clear while we're in the sunshine, this matter did come to my attention. Mr. Pittman, the principal, has had discussions with Miss Mackey. Mr. and Mrs. Mackey were in Mr. Wingate's office, who handles this on the district level, for basically a second hearing beyond the school principal. Conducted his meeting, conducted an investigation of the matter, and recommended to me that I uphold the principal's finding and the student's removal from the football team. Miss Mackey called my office and requested vigorously to speak with me. I called her. I offered to meet with her. She said she would want to talk on the phone. May she record the conversation? I said sure. So I listened. I heard Miss Mackey out. I asked her for a couple of days to have an investigation of my own. I made some additional inquiries, and Mr. Pittman, the school principal, and I talked again. Mr. Pittman wrote a letter to her in writing affirming that he and I were resolute and joint in upholding the coach's suspension for this season of the student from participating on that football team. So all these things that you've asked for have happened. I, of course, as any citizen or parent, do not stand in the way when a parent wants to come address the board, and her specific request was to an appeal a discipline of her child. It was a extracurricular one. Extracurriculars are a privilege versus, you know, your child is absolutely entitled a right to an education, and it takes the school board to expel them from the school, and I can't do that myself. So, and I would just make this other comment. I've been on the school board since 1998 and your superintendent for 3 years, so that's 17 years I've been dealing with student discipline, and I don't ever recall a student suspended from an extracurricular activity and the parent not understanding why or challenging it all the way to the school board. So I don't think that our school board policy has been tested to this level. Mr. Sykes mentioned Chapter 119 is silent on the issue. So I don't know that we've had this particular case in Florida come to this level. So, hey, we got to step out and be the test case, I guess. So as far as I'm concerned, if the school board's asking me to investigate further, I'm mission complete here. The student isn't playing football at Fleming Island High School or anywhere else the rest of this season. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Van Zant. Okay, moving on. Our next item up is Superintendent's update.
Thank you. I would like to share with you, since our legislative priorities were adopted tonight, we had a chance to meet with our legislative delegation, give them our legislative priorities. I've spoken with them all personally. Ms. Condon, Ms. Cornegie were able to address them as a corporate body. Some of you may have been able to attend that meeting a couple of weeks ago or watch it on television. So just to recap, they are committed to work on us with our priorities for this year and have in the past. And I would point out specifically the past 3 years, our legislative delegation has worked with us and secured an additional $750,000 funding for the Florida Youth Challenge Academy, which is a one of its type program for students who've dropped out of high school, and it's located here on Camp Blanding, Florida in Clay County, and it is assigned to Clay County High School Code. So we would not have gotten that if our legislative delegation did not work for us on that. As most of you are probably aware, there seemed to be a lot of rancor this past legislative session. The House walked out once, the Senate walked out once, and a lot of those budget requests got cut in half. So at the education appropriations level, in the House and the Senate, our request for Florida Youth Challenge this year was approved at $750,000, but in the tail end of that appropriations conference, it was sliced in half, and it's my understanding several other appropriations were also for this school year we have $375,000 to work with Florida Youth Challenge Academy. In addition, this past year, working through our delegation members and the Florida Senate Education Appropriations Committee and the Florida House Education Appropriations Committee, we were able to secure a little additional funding for Clay County to the tune of a little more than $500,000 specifically for military-connected students, as 19% of the land mass in Clay County, approximately 72,000 acres, is Camp Blanding. We're 600 square miles in Clay County, if you've ever just late at night wondering exactly how big we are. So Camp Blanding, which is not taxed at the ad valorem rate like our homes and our school, other properties you may own are. So we've been fairly successful, independent of the Florida Education Finance Program, above and beyond just for Clay County and advocating particularly for money. The other thing we're always asking for is flexibility. Our coalition or our delegation did advocate for less testing in general. We were moderately successful. I think only one test, and that wasn't just our delegation or just us. The entire Superintendents Association, School Boards Association across the state advocated for that and still continue to do so. So that's what, if the question is kind of hanging out there, what's your legislative delegation done for you lately? I'd like to publicly thank them for that. We should probably have them up here and give them a plaque, because they have helped us quite a bit. A couple weeks ago, shifting gears onto this current legislative cycle, which starts in January of 2016, I was able to attend the Florida Superintendents Association Fall Leadership Conference in Tampa, and I sat there with 63 other superintendents and a couple of the other superintendents who couldn't make it to round out the full state, and I were all in agreement, and literally we crafted about a 2-page document, which I sent out to everybody that has a oneclay.net, that's the school board employee support instructional administration, a couple of weeks ago. And I've never seen such a collaborative or cohesive body. I mean, there were parts that everybody couldn't agree to, so we cut those out, but to get 64 superintendent of schools from 64 different counties in a room and have 2 pages of things you do thoroughly agree on, I thought was remarkable. And basically the crux of our argument and concern is that this year, for the 14-15 school year, the Commissioner of Education in Florida and the Florida Legislature are lined up to issue school grades that do not account for student learning gains nor student growth, just simple proficiency. And ever since about 2002, our second or third year of the FCAT, the Florida Comprehensive Assessment Test, our school grading formula has consisted of about 50% of the school's grade comprising of learning, gain, and growth. And we had talked about it so much down there for about a day, I called my wife one night and I said, hey, I said, let me just simplify this. If I told you that I just talked to the Commissioner of Education and that her and the State Board of Education and the legislature were getting ready to issue grades to our students' school that didn't account for the learning they did, would that make any sense to you? She said, no, that would not make no sense at all. So I just, after writing and writing and writing, I had to kind of step back. But it just makes sense on the simplest common sense level that if we say, which the Clay County School Board does, that what a student learns in a year is important, that we should make the things that comprise the school grade broader, not lesser. And I'll just give you an example. An elementary school is graded on about 8 major components. So without gains and growth taken into account, you can only really grade 3 of those 8 cells. On strict proficiency, the other 5 8s are taken away. Well, on top of those subjects that are tested, even with 8, we believe in art and music and a well-rounded curriculum. So none of those are being assessed, but we're spending all this time and energy doing it. We're spending $7 million of the Department of Defense's money just to do STEM and robotics, which isn't assessed either. So if we should do anything with a statewide assessment, in my humble opinion, it is to measure more broadly all the things we spend time, energy, and money doing with our students every day, not less. So I've asked to meet with the governor one-on-one. Ms. Bush, my secretary, was on the phone with his chief of staff secretary yesterday. We've been after that for about 2 weeks, and my goal, people say, if you had the magic wand, what would you do? Well, if I was the governor of the state of Florida, I would ask for the chairman of the education committees in the House and the Senate to meet with me and let them know under no uncertain terms the first piece of legislation I wanted to sign in January of 2016 would be something to suspend in Florida statute school grades for anything other than just baseline data this next year. Because what we've done in Florida, we've asked businesses to come here. We're constantly in Clay County asking for more business partnerships. We're asking people to build their homes here, entrust us with their students' education, accelerate these children into the workforce based on market-driven data that tells us what employers want for kids. But you've all heard of a false positive, right? If we give a false negative by grading schools and showing a grade that they did not earn that's worse than they're actually producing, when I can show you real evidence in Clay County on our own assessment system internally that we're making gains, that just moves us in the wrong direction, and it's not true. It's just simply not true. So I didn't mean to get preachy here tonight, but I did want you to let you know what the Superintendent's Association has been doing as a whole, what I, as your superintendent in Clay County, have been doing, and kind of where my head was at on all that.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Van Zant. Okay, before we get to, we've got some cards, a couple of cards here. The first one is Nancy, is it Smart? Okay, yeah. Well,
What's she addressed?
C2 is
actually, hold on a second. She had put in a card to speak to the scheduled citizens request, and it was kind of buried in the back. So just like to let her go ahead and speak to that, and then we'll move on to the next items. This is for the scheduled citizens request. So this was the last speaker who spoke. She wanted to speak 3 minutes to that. Okay.
You don't have to if you don't want to.
You don't have to if you don't want to.
Well, it's kind of moot, but I just want to let you know that there are other parents on Fleming Island High School football team we support.
Well, I would,
Okay, before you could, could you just state your name and address for the record into the microphone? Yeah.
1526 Silver Bell Lane, Fleming Island.
But we don't need her to be discussing any other student conduct
Correct.
other than
I
our
don't
own
think
child.
she's
So,
going to.
okay.
Okay.
No, I just want to show support for the team and the coaches. My son's been on the team for 4 years, and we've had a very positive experience with coaches, teammates, teachers, everybody involved. I can't speak to Ms. Mackey's experience, but ours and many others has been quite positive, and that's all I wanted to
Okay. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate that. Okay. All right. Next item up is C2. This was pulled from the consent agenda by Mrs. Studdard, and this is on the November board meeting.
Yeah. This item is to schedule the regular November board meeting for Tuesday the 17th instead of our normal third Thursday, which would be the 19th. And I really don't have any strong preference one way or the other on this, but I just wanted to make sure that the board was aware that the state law changed, and in election years you still do have to have it, what is it, the third Tuesday after the first Monday or whatever. But in off-election years, the law now just says you meet sometime in the month of November. So I thought, well, everybody knows our meetings are the third Thursday, and I thought, if there's a real reason, like when we've had the health fair and so forth and they needed the room, I could understand it because it kind of gets people confused. But if there's not a reason, I didn't know why we weren't just having it on the third Thursday like we always do. But if y'all want to move it to Tuesday, it's fine with me. I just wanted to make sure you knew the law had changed and it's no longer required that we have it on that Tuesday.
So the recommended action, obviously, was for us to move it from the Thursday to the Tuesday to be consistent with statutes for election year requirements, but you're saying that's no longer the law, so...
Was there a reason? I know that the day after that is the last day before the Thanksgiving break. The Friday before they get out for Thanksgiving, I don't think they're going to be doing any heavy lifting that day as far as exams and so forth. I don't know. But, I mean, is there any reason to move it to Tuesday? I mean, I don't know. There may be some rationale I'm not aware of.
I proposed that, and I was aware, thank you, that the statute had changed. But when I looked at our past practice and being consistent, as far back as our digital agenda goes, we've always had it on that Tuesday.
Yeah. Well, the law was different then.
Right. But
so.
we have not moved that, and when you get around the holidays, the Friday before a break is one of your highest substitute use days. You have a lot of people trying to get ready and get out of town. I don't know why when you have a whole week off, everybody either takes that Friday before off or Monday after. That runs fairly consistent whether they're instructional support, administrative district staff. So for speaking on behalf of the district and the people that have to get the items in before you, we would rather have it on that Tuesday just to get it away from that weekend, let people be ready to do their thing. As you know, sometimes our board meetings can get rather lengthy, and then people are trapped in town dragging through that Friday. So I think I even acknowledged that it was previous law and past practice. I forget how I worded the rationale, but I did know the law had changed. I would advocate to move it to that Tuesday. If y'all want to keep it on that Thursday, it would almost move, if you looked back any other years, it would be inconsistent with what we've done, but we'll meet whatever night of that week the board prescribes.
But here again, the reason we did it before was because that we had to. It was the law. And so, you know, every other year in an election year, it still has to be on on a Tuesday. But in these odd years, I didn't know why we were moving it. But if y'all want to do it just because it'll be the same every year, it doesn't make any difference to me. I just wanted to see what your feelings were on it.
I have a personal reason I'd like to move it. That's my child's 17th birthday, but
Which day is his birthday?
on the 19th, but I'll be here whenever it is. We can celebrate whenever, but
I'll just say I already had that day marked in my calendar, so I was already planning to have it that Tuesday. So, and it's just because we always knew that it was the third Tuesday when we had our reorganization meeting, and then followed by our regular meeting, and we always knew that it was that Tuesday. So I had already blocked it off on my calendar. So I'd like to keep it the same day, if that's okay.
That's fine. I'll move approval then.
Okay, so we have a motion for approval.
I'll second.
And a second by Ms. Gilhousen. Motion for approval by Ms. Studdard and a second by Ms. Gilhousen. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Okay. Yeah, happy birthday to your son. Okay. Before we bring item C3, we have a card on that one, and this is Mr. Travis Christensen. Item C3, approved for advertising amendments to school board policy. Okay, 6.105.02. Okay.
Travis Christensen, 2871 Affirmed Court. I remember when this item was first passed. It's been quite a while, so if my memory leads me astray, I have to apologize. Now, I think that changing the buffer zone around the hours of instruction from 30 minutes to 10 minutes, I believe that is a good move, because 30 minutes after school is an inconvenience, and 30 minutes before school has been described in the past as prohibitive for before school activities. However, I've got to take a little issue with how long it's taken to change this policy, considering the background on this. If you'll recall, and if I'm remembering correctly, this 30-minute buffer zone was enacted in order to make a legally defensible posture to protect from a lawsuit from like the Wisconsin Atheists in regarding to outside groups holding prayer meetings around the flagpole. Now, not for individual prayer or for parents dropping off children, for outside groups wanting to use the grounds. The 30 minutes is so to avoid the appearance that the schools were promoting one religion over another, which of course is a violation of federal law, and having outside groups on the school grounds without a school-related reason being in violation of state law. Hence the policy. The reason I take some umbrage of how long it's taken to change it is because this was a big issue. I believe Mrs. Studdard once described it as the most divisive issue she's ever seen in all her years in the school board. And I know the school board member Van Zandt at the time voted against it. I believe it was changing it was one of his campaign items. I believe it was also one of Mrs. McKinnon's items. And after election, it completely vanished. That was in 2012. This has been 3 years. And I have to be honest, I just sort of assumed that more or less, before election purposes, people just exploited the issue to get church votes, get power, and here we are today. But nonetheless, 10 minutes, that is a buffer zone. And I think if no one has any problem with Girl Scouts or anything, or sports clubs, but say if there's any outside religious groups want to do it, I'm thinking that if anyone wants to go to the flagpole, just honestly have prayers and speak to their Lord, there's probably not going to be a problem with that. If anyone does, as they have in the past, go and showboat on the issue and go to pray to be seen by others, then we'll probably see some issues and some blowback on that in the future. So I hope you'll take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Christensen. Okay, so we'll move to item C3. This was pulled from the consent agenda by Ms. Karakis. Is this your item, Ms. Karakis? First, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
Okay, so
I'll second.
we have a motion for approval by Ms. Condon and a second by Ms. Gilhousen. Okay, Ms. Karakis?
Well, I remember when this came about also, and I remember the reason why and what was going on at the time. And you know, we ended up with this big workshop, and we had several attorneys come and tell us that this was the safest way to protect our children, kind of twofold, to, you know, respect the freedom for religion, freedom from religion, and also to prevent, you know, predators from coming on our grounds. And the safety is a big issue with our children. You know, we've got the Jessica Lunsford Act that everybody has to sign in. And I was surprised when I saw this on the agenda, because only a day or two prior to that, I got a phone call from a parent who sent me a flyer of a group that's at Wilkinson Elementary. And I brought them with me. I've got one for each of you to show you. And it's the Good News Club that meets. Now, Wilkinson Elementary gets out at 2:32, and we have a 30-minute buffer in there. And this group is meeting at 2:45 until 4:15 every Thursday. And this is sponsored by the Child Evangelism Fellowship of North Central Florida. And the Good News Club is an exciting, fun-filled hour once a week, and it includes dynamic Bible studies, creative learning activities, inspiring missionary stories, meaningful song, life-changing scripture memory. And I am shocked and appalled and wondering who approved this when it clearly violates our school board policy. So that's my first question to the superintendent. And my second question is, you know, how can we, how do I word this without making it sound, well, let's just say, it didn't surprise me that the policy now came before us, because, you know, this is clearly violating policy. Now we have to cover our butts because we're violating policy. So I figure, I'm wondering, why are we even setting policy if the superintendent's not going to enforce it? So I would like for the board to receive a copy of the insurance and rental agreement that was filled out for this club to meet on our school grounds, because they should certainly be renting this facility if they're using it to create a club. And they should be providing their own insurance, paying a rental fee, and this time needs to be changed to 3:02, which is 30 minutes after the end of the school day. And I would really like to know, Mr. Van Zant, who approved this.
If you have any other questions, I'm going to address them all at once and only once.
You know what? As a school board member, I really can ask as many questions as I like, because this is something that really affects all our children. And we have to remember that our most valuable possession is our children. And if we are violating policy that was put in place to protect our children, this needs to be addressed with the board. And I think I would like the rest of the board's input on this, because I think you should probably all be just as outraged as I am that this is going on in violation. And I don't, you know, it doesn't matter if they're going to have a club to meet. That's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But follow the policy, and don't bring a policy to be changed 2 months after this has already started. So when parents call, and I got a call from a parent, that's how I got this. and let me know what's going on and why is this allowed when our policy clearly states 30 minutes. So, yeah, those are my questions, and I'd like to hear from the board also. But by all means, Mr. Van Zant, let us know who approved this and what you intend to do with it.
Ms. McKinnon?
Yes, Ms. Condon.
So I didn't, obviously I wasn't on the board when this policy was put into place, but when it came and I read it, and I've talked to a number of different principals, and I don't agree with violation of policy, and certainly on that. But on the actual policy itself, and certainly I didn't sit in with those attorneys, but I would be interested to know, because the elementary principals that I've had conversations with since I saw this on the agenda have said to me more concern over 30 minutes of unsupervised time on school property, because after school you don't have to go through the drop off or pick up or walk up to a school to know that it can get kind of zooey, and then 30 minutes of kids with unsupervised activities could be a concern. And the thing that occurred to me is, we do have a number of organizations like YMCAs and tutoring programs and things like that that do lease space from us, and based on that, it would seem to me to make more sense to have them start 10 minutes after the school got out, just so that they were supervised. And so that was, to me, it seems like it could be more of a risk to the students to have unsupervised time on playgrounds and things like that, more time to get in trouble, more time to bother teachers who are trying to wrap up their days. And of course, I don't know all of the different organizations that lease our space after school, but it just occurred to me that kids unsupervised for any long length of time can breed one bad idea leaning into another bad idea. And everyone knows when someone starts something with, hey, watch this, it's not going to end well. And that might, I think, with our younger students, be more of a risk than the time waiting the 30 minutes.
Well, I just kind of feel that, we are in a situation where our fund balance is, what are we at, 2.12%? And if we change this back to 10 minutes, and we have, organizations like this on our school grounds indoctrinating our children, we're going to be in another lawsuit. And we cannot afford, you can laugh, but we're not going to be able to afford the lawsuits that are going to come at us. So I would just caution you, follow the law and follow, and just remember that if you vote, knowingly vote, that you are violating statute and policy, it will come back to you. You will be held responsible.
Okay, so I'd like to go ahead and say something too. First of all, I was not on the board at the time, but I was in the audience at the time when this did come about, and I remember a lot of the discussion. And I also remember that the attorneys, both of the attorneys that were arguing for both sides about this, nobody said that the time limit violated any statute. There is no statute that's violated here by having a 10-minute buffer zone. This board agreed, well, I will say a majority of the board at the time agreed that we will do it just so that it looks good. There was no statute violated by moving this to 10 minutes, so I just want to clarify that. This is the first I've seen of this. I'm not aware of this. I don't know who this club is.
I don't either. I have
but,
no idea.
I wouldn't object to my child going to a club like this. I'm a Christian.
Can we just,
these are kinds of things. I'm just saying. I just take exception to.
There's a place here for parental permission.
Right.
This
Exactly.
is not indoctrination.
Right. Nobody is. Yeah. And so I take exception to that comment. Okay. Because nobody's getting indoctrinated here. And so I just want to say I personally don't have a problem with it. I remember that all of that took place, and I remember there was no statute violated by a 10-minute. It was just that we thought we would do this. It would look good in the eyes of the public, and it was amicable. Everybody was in agreement with it in terms of the majority of the board. So that's how I remember it. And
Well, you're
Ms.
not
Gilhousen,
remembering it correctly, because it was not done to look good for the general public.
I do remember it
It was done
correctly.
to keep us out of court. It was
Okay.
done to protect the children who were standing around and watching and didn't know how to not participate because they didn't want the peer pressure.
Yeah, no.
This was all part of it, and you may not remember, and that's okay. You weren't on the board at the time. But we do have a responsibility to our children to keep them safe, and I believe that keeping the 30-minute in there is crucial to their
Okay.
safety.
Thank you. Any other board comments before Mr. Van Zandt answers all the comments? Or
I'm
answers
just,
all the
I'm just
questions?
gonna, I've got to put my 2 cents in on this. I'm gonna just say what I really think. I personally don't have heartburn whether it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. The attorneys, as I recall, they wanted us to have a buffer, and maybe they suggested 30. I don't even remember where 30 came from. But my biggest concern, though, is that if this has been this Child Evangelism Fellowship of North Central Florida out of Gainesville, I mean, if they've been meeting at the school since the first of school, and here we are, you know, what's today's date? 15th of October. I should know that. 2 days after my birthday. You know, I am concerned that it's been going on for a month and a half or more, to almost 2 months, I guess, since school started, in violation of policy. That is a concern of mine. I don't care if it's 15 minutes. If y'all like 15 minutes, 17 minutes, that's not my problem. My problem is that we've had a couple months of this and we weren't aware of it.
Right.
Somebody somewhere dropped the ball on the policy, and then I'm going to say something that I probably wish I wouldn't when I go home tonight, but I'm going to say it anyway. We're getting close to an election year, and I thought, oh Lord, here we go. We're going to have us another issue. You know, we got to have an issue, and please, let's don't cheapen our faith and our religion over something like this for an election campaign.
That's right.
Thank you, Ms. Sutter.
I'll just echo.
Yeah.
To me, the time frame, the safety of our students is our primary concern.
Right.
And I tend to agree with you two or with you, Ms. Condon, that having unsupervised students on campus is a much greater risk to their safety than, especially, I mean, I think about my 6-year-old. If I wanted him to participate in this Bible study, which we're Christians, and I have that right as a parent. If I want my child in Bible study and he wants to do it, we can do that. This is America.
Right.
So if I want him in this, I don't want him sitting in a classroom for 30 minutes without somebody watching him. And that would be a hindrance to me allowing him to participate. So I think that this is a good idea in that it keeps our children closely supervised as they should be. Now, when it comes to this being a Bible club, I think regardless of what the topic is that the club is meeting about, our children's safety is primary, and that this is a good policy regardless of what kind of club we're talking about. And I think we need to make this discussion not about a religion, not about a specific club, but just, is this an acceptable policy?
Okay. Mr. Van Zandt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I would just remind the board members, like I always do, when you bring something up at the board floor that you've never bothered to call me about, if you call me, I can explain this stuff. Because, believe it or not, sometimes I actually do know what's going on. If not, I have all the right people to figure it out. Secondly, we have Miss Heather Tito's the principal at Wilkinson Elementary School. She was the assistant principal last spring when she was first approached by the group that's conducting the after-school club. And all of our principals have the authority to accept a facilities use agreement, a statement of insurance, and that goes on file with Mr. Merrill's office, okay? The facilities department, facilities use agreement. Ms. Legutko's department has historically helped us keep the certificate of insurance for the organization. So that should be on file. I have no reason to believe it isn't. We have after school and before school clubs, outside organizations, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Lego robotics, all kinds of stuff going on all over the place at probably most of our 41 schools. I don't even know how many of those Mr. Merrill has, but if you call, I'll make arrangements for you. You can go sit in Mr. Merrill's office and look at every outside organization that we have on file. You can check all their facilities use agreements. You can check all their certificates of insurance. And I see Mr. Merrill sweating, saying, "Oh boy, I hope Julie's got all those." But that's nothing new, intriguing, and it doesn't come to the superintendent's level to approve those. The union president brought to the principal's attention this policy and said, "Hey, if you're going to do that, you have to wait 30 minutes." Ms. Tito picks up the phone and calls me, and she says, "Do I have to wait 30 minutes for an outside organization to have a club?" And I said, "I believe that you do. Let me look at the policy and get back with you." So I pulled up the policy. I believe somewhere in here I talked with Mr. Sykes, and I said, "You know, that was actually on my list." To the previous speaker, I had a file of things that I thought were ridiculous that happened the first 2 years I was superintendent, and I made a file of them. I didn't start that file, I think, until I became superintendent. This actually happened when I was on the board, but Ms. Bush helped me track things that just didn't make sense to me the first 2 years, and I think we've changed everything back since the last election to things that were more reasonable, safer, more respectful of everybody's time that has to supervise these children. So my instructions to Ms. Tito, which she has been following herself as an administrator, not putting anybody else on overtime, not making them work extra duty, has taken it upon herself to accommodate these children's supervision in the library for 30 minutes after school every day. And I would have been happy to tell you that. Ms. Tito would have been happy to tell you that. So your policy has been followed. It has not been changed. So your policy as it's written has been followed every time this club is met. Okay? That was made known to the outside organization after they received the flyer. And again, I can't reiterate how simple this would have been to clear up had anybody given me the courtesy of a phone call. I would have been happy to. So, not just for this organization, but for all others, as I got to checking around, you know what? We've never applied this to the YMCA. They're an outside organization. They contract with us to watch our kids before and after school. This would be a horrendous burden if we applied this policy to that organization or other outside organizations. The reason this board came up with 30 minutes is that is the very most time this board could have, because all over our schools, and you can check your student handbooks, but I know I've read somewhere that we provide supervision no earlier than 30 minutes before school starts and no later than 30 minutes. So we have posted signs, don't drop your children off more than 30 minutes before school starts. That's where 30 was, because that was the absolute longest the board could make it, so it did at that time.
Mr. Van Zandt, can I ask you a question? In our policy somewhere, and Mrs. Studdard, you might remember this, isn't the YMCA and prime time actually written in the policy that they're excluded?
It may be. I'm just using that as one of many examples of outside organizations, so I can't.
I believe they are.
So this is, and the thing that I think would be most litigious is if we were caught treating one outside organization differently from another. I heard it at least a dozen times in the workshop you guys referred to where we had two different attorneys here. Everybody, regardless of what they do, if they're an outside organization, must be treated equally in respect to time, place, and manner of their activity, and that's what we've striven to do here.
Well, this is what I'm concerned because this flyer says 2:45.
But that flyer was
4:15.
not issued by our school
So-
district.
Right.
That was issued by this church, and they apparently got it wrong.
Right.
You're not going to hold them
Mhm.
to, you know what I'm saying?
I completely agree with you. That's right. But I would just want to make sure, so I would like you to forward to the board the rental agreement and the insurance for this particular club. And
You
you
will
can email it
email
to each
Mr.
of
Merrill.
us,
He will
please.
look that up and do that for you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll get that. If you give me the flyer. I get 6, 7 of these things a day, so I can't remember this one particularly, but I will be glad to check into it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Van Zandt.
Okay. I have a motion for approval. Was it Ms. Gilhousen? I'm sorry. Motion for approval by Ms. Condon, a second by Ms. Gilhousen. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no.
No?
Motion carries 4-1 with Mrs. Karakis descending. Okay. Okay, our next item up is D2, and before we bring that, we have several cards on this. This is the Insurance Committee update. Our first person is Mr. Smitty Huffman.
Smitty Huffman, my information's on the card for the record. I'm speaking up to the insurance issue and several of the teachers at my school that have expressed a concern for this. They want to make sure that the insurance goes to bid. Their concern is that the insurance committee came up with that. They feel like the increases in insurance is hurting them financially. The percentage is somewhat deceiving when they say it's roughly a 9% increase, but some of them have actually up to a 36% increase that comes straight out of their income. Also, the fact that my understanding that Florida Blue made basically $1.6 million in profit off of Clay County, and also there was a $136,000 rebate given back to the county, which came from the money that the teachers and the employees of the county put into Florida Blue. So, and to this day, we're not sure where that $136,000 is going as a teacher. I'm not privy to that information at this time, so a lot of the teachers have expressed a concern about that. So, all the teachers I have talked to, all the employees that I have talked to have a big concern. They want the insurance to go to bid. They think that the increase in the insurance is unjustified and cannot be explained logically, much like other political things in Clay County. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huffman. Our next person for this item is Mr. Keith Nichols.
Keith Nichols, and my address is on the card. I just want to say that, I've had a lot of discussions on this very issue with Ms. Condon, and tonight when she gets ready to do her update, I really want her to just do more than just give you a cursory update. I want her to go in detail on some of the conversations that we've actually had, because she's really got some insight, and I'd really like her to just plow through this. This is a very important topic. I mean, this is a large economic burden for your people. And it is also one of the biggest drivers for your employment. I mean, having a good insurance policy will be able to get you quality people. And accepting Blue Cross and Blue Shield's assertions the way we are and just letting them jack the price up anytime they want to is not going to help you in the long run keep or retain the people you've got or recruit new people. So I hope, Ms. Condon, that tonight when you go into detail, I hope you really get specific. I hope you drive the points home. And I hope you make us see that, this is something that we really need to take serious. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Our next speaker is Ms. Rebecca Smith.
My name is Rebecca Smith. My address is on the card for the record. I've been here time and time again talking on this topic, so it's nothing new to the board. However, I've made sure that you have a copy of my pay sheet stub. Let's take a look at it a little bit. I made $811.25. Out of that $811.25, my insurances total up to $729.55 per pay. This includes my short-term, long-term disability. I had to have that because I am required, if I'm out of work due to illness, I still have to pay for my insurance. I had to have this because I am the main supporter of my family. Now, if you notice how much I made for the year so far, $12,468, and out of that, $6,040 went to insurance, half of my pay. I walked away with this 10-day pay, $81.70. $81.70. Break that down, it's a little over $40 a week. I had to buy gas. Now, one of you up here on the board, and you know who you are, asked, what are we willing to do to get this insurance under control? I can't do anymore. I mean, I'm going to be writing y'all checks. I have wrote you checks when I have short weeks. This is 10-day pay. We don't get 10-day pays all the time. This is killing your employees. Florida Blue, they're going to spend their spin on it, but consistently they have went up, 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 up. We can't take it no more. We need to go to bids. And we are asking you to do the right thing for your employees. Okay? It's like I'm up here begging week after week after week, you know. I call y'all, I talk to you and everything. I don't know what else to do because this has got really ridiculous. I enjoy working for Clay County. I love my kids on my bus. But my hours got cut this year. I'm making a bare minimum hours. I drive from Middleburg to Green Cove. Yes, I asked for a transfer. It didn't work out. I'm asking for your help today. Do the right thing. Go to bids.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. For that item. Okay, we have Charlene Laidler.
Hi, my name is Charlene Laidler. My address is on the card. I'm an employee here. I'm a monitor. I've been here 14 years. You know, the increase of our insurance is getting outrageous. They are asking you to set out to be bids. To me, I think that would be the best thing that we need to do. You asked us last meeting, you know, you said, what can y'all do? Well, we're asking you to set out to bids. This is what needs to be done. That way we can get some more competition in. Because as far as Blue, they're going to keep raising it. We need to make sure they can't do that anymore. We need to be able to fight them to be able to get our insurance down. And to be able to do that is to put out for bids. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. We already spoke to Keith Nichols. Liz Crane?
Actually wanted to speak on D3 before you guys voted.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. This is D3.
No, I thought it was D2.
No.
That's
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm sorry. I got them confused. Okay. So yeah, so that's.
And D2 is really not anything to vote on. I apologize that my eyes are watering. It's allergies, and I apologize. But if you'll give me, indulge me to read, I had printed this and I've misplaced it. But I did look into the $136,334 rebate that came from Florida Blue, and Ms. Crane at the last meeting had talked about a letter. I believe Ms. Crane had talked about a letter that was received, and so I did ask about that, because if you were watching that meeting or you were here, I did not receive that letter. So I found out that that letter went to our employees only who were participating in the HMO plan, which was called Health Options. So that was the reason for that. So I'll just read you what Mrs. Legutko and her team put together is the answer to where the $136,000 rebate came. The rebate is a result of the insurance company, Florida Blue, not meeting their overall book of business costs with the entire company, what this means is that vendors such as the district receive a rebate check based on the total amount contributed to the plan. The impact is to all active employees and retirees who participated in the HMO plan. The school board's contribution is 71% of the dollars, the active employees' contribution is 26%, and the retirees is 4%. There were two options on how the rebate dollars were to be used. The rebate back to the employee in the form of a check, or rebate the value through a reduction to future premiums. The district chose to do the reduction to future premiums because of the cost of running an additional check and the fact that terms, our 20-year-old system that runs payroll, can only run a certain number of payroll runs a year, the way that it's set up, and so it was more it was just almost impossible to issue that check, and when you hear the amount, you'll understand why. The rebate value impacts 1,775 employees and 90 retirees. A manual check will be generated for the 90 retirees because it has to be, because they don't have a deduction the same way. A one-time reduction to the employee's contribution will be done in the November payroll. If we were to generate a manual check for each active employee, the check amount would be $1.51 prior to taxes. And our insurance brokers, Aon, provided the district with the calculation on the distribution of the rebate funds, and the spreadsheet, there is a spreadsheet that they provided that's called the Clay Rebate Allocation Perspective, and at any rate, it lists out the employees, and so I don't think that that's, I think that you'd have to go through Mrs. Legutko's office if anyone wanted to actually look at that. But I did want to clear up, and that was why I asked to have this one update, because I thought it was valuable information for the public to know how that $136,000 rebate had been distributed. So that was number 42.
Okay, D2. So now we'll move on to D3, which is consider the insurance committee's recommendation for proposal, RFP, for medical health insurance benefits. And now we have, hold on a second. So these guys just spoke to that issue. Keith and yeah, but they put in a card for both of them, D2 and D3. Okay, I'll let the other folks speak first. Okay, Liz Crane.
Okay, Liz Crane, you have my address for the record. Good evening. I am the chairperson of the district's insurance committee. Our committee brings to you the recommendation for proposal RFP medical health insurance benefits. We are asking that you please support the insurance committee's recommendation and vote yes on this item. Last year, we were less than satisfied with Florida Blue's commitment to keep the medical health insurance costs low. During our conversations, Aon showed us what they believed was a fair rate increase, and Florida Blue did the same. Unfortunately, Florida Blue's increase was a lot higher than what Aon recommended. We asked repeatedly why, and it was our understanding that Florida Blue used a different trend variable and different calculations to calculate the increase than Aon. Florida Blue stated that they were using trend based on their book of business. Our loss ratio trend is very good. Historically, the insurance company takes in more money in premiums than they spend in claims. We proved this to Florida Blue, however, they remain steadfast on their increase and their trend variable. We also tried to explain our district's finances and the hardship on our employees. This fell on deaf ears. We shared that we have support employees that paid money to the district after they received a negative paycheck, just so they could have health insurance. Rebecca, this is for you, honey. Florida Blue is here today. They're here in the back of the room. And Rebecca, while you were speaking, he was texting. School board, you need to be outraged. Outraged. We're here. again, to either meet with silence or, oh, I understand, my mother was a teacher. Personally, I found these responses arrogant and very condescending. I left our meetings reminded that we're dealing with corporate America, and there is one agenda: to make money. The Florida Blue representative was given a job to do: settle the medical health insurance contract quickly with Clay County School Board for the most money they could get. It did not matter to them who paid the bill. They knew it was too late to request for proposal and knew that we had to have an insurance plan. We were stuck. The committee discussed at the end of last year about going to bid, but understood the time factor. This year, our first item on our agenda was to discuss and vote on whether or not to recommend a request for proposal. The vote was not unanimous. However, the committee supports the vote. We want to see other options that are out there. We want to see if there's another company that will have our employees in their best interest and not the bottom line. Please vote yes on the committee's recommendation of proposal on medical health insurance benefits.
Thank you, Ms. Crane. Victoria Kidwell.
Hi, my name is Victoria Kidwell. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm here to address the insurance issue, just like Ms. Crane. I'm asking, please, that the insurance rates be considered. What we make is not what most people make, and the insurance rates are huge for us, especially for your support people. Our insurance committee decided that because of those increasing rates, we needed relief somehow, and so they weighed everything. They looked at all the information. There's some smart people on that committee that are dedicated, and they decided that we needed to go out for bid. Administrators on the committee voted no, support and teachers voted yes. So in a 2-to-1 vote, it was definitely a majority that wanted to go out for a bid. Tonight you're going to vote on whether or not to allow us to go out on an insurance bid to help us relieve some of the financial pain that we're under. I urge you to honor the recommendations of the insurance committee in their 2-to-1 vote and allow the employees to go out for bids. I know Florida Blue is against this. They're making a lot of money off of us. Florida Blue requested a meeting with each of you before this board meeting to influence you not to vote and allow us to go out for a bid. I don't know how many of you met with Florida Blue or whether or not you're going to allow them to influence your vote, but they wanted to meet with you. I'm asking you please to consider your employees, your teachers, and your support, and that they don't make much money and they're in real financial pain. Please vote to let us go out for a bid so that we can try to get some financial relief with our insurance.
Thank you. Hey, Mr. Nichols, you had another card in. Did you want to speak to this? This is the same item. Okay.
Okay, Smitty brought up a good point. He said they made a $106 million profit, and there was a 9% increase, and they had to give back $136,000. Somehow I have a feeling that if you were to go and look at all the thing, the $136,000 that they had to give back probably comes out to about 9%, if I just had to make a guess, roughly around there. The reason why this is coming around is because the federal law for Obamacare says that 80% of all money has to be spent on health care. When they didn't meet that obligation, they had the $136,000. The only way they can get that back is to be able to just broaden the pie and make the pie larger so that the 20% that they can get their profits out of is larger. It has nothing to do with providing health care to the people. It has to do with being able to raise that pie so their 20% is larger and they can get that $136,000. What you're going to come about and find is that next year, that $136,000 is going to be larger because they're still not going to pay out that 80% that they need on medical services. So next year, if you don't go for a proposal here, what you're going to find out is they're going to come back and they're going to go, okay, we need to raise our rates another 14% because there's more money out there for us to get off of y'all. Now, your support personnel, she told you that they can't afford it, and they can't. And I want you to think about this. It's been 532 days since we've had a contract. We're sitting here and we're working for you without a contract. We've not had a contract for 532 days. Okay? The last time you all approved a contract for us was on April 17th of 2014. The terms of that contract expired on April 1st, 2014. So that should give you an idea of how frustrated we are getting with you all. So please, listen to what we're saying. This is killing us. Now, not me personally because I'm TRICARE, but I've got friends that I drive with every day that they have to make a choice of whether they're going to eat or whether they're going to buy medicine. And you know, when you sit there and you say, okay, I've got to go buy the blood pressure medicine, I've got finished buying my blood pressure medicine, and now the only thing I can afford to buy is ramen noodles, that's not very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. And then our last card is Miss Rebecca Smith again. I said our last card is Miss Rebecca Smith.
Wow, we've heard, my name is Rebecca Smith, everything's on record. We've heard a lot of information here today. I hope you hear us, because y'all have a job to do. We hired you to do a job, to do what's right for the county and right for your employees that you hire. I'm working in poverty level. I've not had a raise. Every time we go to bargaining, we hear, hey, status quo, we ain't got nothing. Let's wait till the FEP reports come in. We heard that before too, and we waited for the FEP to come in, and what did we get? Status quo. We got nothing. Zero. Our insurance goes up, 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 up. When y'all allow these insurance companies to come in here, you need to try to gear that premium to the lowest paid person that's working for you so they can afford it. I know people out there that needs MRIs, CT scans, and they can't afford it. They can't afford it. Another one just got out of the hospital, $6,000 she's got to pay because she had that high deductible. The Blue Cross Blue Shield, Florida Blue is so that just puts it on us. You know what I'm saying? Oh, we can afford that on $10 and something an hour. I'm giving over half of my paycheck to insurance. I'm walking away with $40 a week. Come on. Are you going to let Florida Blue come in here and dictate to y'all? Y'all are elected officials. I want to remind you of this. We voted you in. And we will do due diligence what is right for our kids in this county and what is right for the employees too. This madness needs to stop. We're bleeding here.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Okay. Okay, we'll move to item D3. I'll entertain a motion.
I move approval.
I'll second.
I have a motion for approval by Ms. Studdard and a second by Ms. Karakis. Any discussion?
There's something I'd like to say.
Okay.
And it's not necessarily about this. I do think that, you know, our insurance is horrendous, and I hear what our employees are saying. And I was down at the County Commission office today taking care of something, and one of the ladies there introduced herself to me and told me that she used to be one of our ESE aides, and she left our district 13 or 14 months ago because she couldn't afford the insurance. And there was not a parking spot today down at the County Commission office because they had open enrollment. And those people are thrilled with their insurance. There's 1,600 employees, and they have a great plan. And the girl who was talking to me and then 3 others in the office started talking about their plan. It's affordable, their premiums are low, their coverage is great.
Who was that again? I'm sorry.
This is down the county, Florida Blue they have. And it's our county commission.
Oh, I got you.
And they have 1,600 employees as opposed to our 5,000 plus. So I would like our insurance committee, or you see, I'm not on the committee, so I don't know exactly who goes out and looks at it, but I would like them to contact the county commission, Sheila, maybe it's you, find out what they have, and how do we get it? And how do we get it at their rate so that our employees can afford it? so that they can. I had a mom call me and tell me she can't take her daughter to physical therapy. She can't afford physical therapy for her daughter. Now, you know, when it comes to our children, we're going to do anything and everything we have to. So we need to correct this. We need to make this right. And so I just want to let, whoever needs to know, Sheila, the county commission has a good policy. So let's look at it if we can. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Ms. Condon?
Sitting on the committee. I do sit on that committee. I will say I am in support of going out for the RFP because that's what the committee wanted, and I'll just share with you all what I shared with Mr. Van Zant, and that is I don't know that we won't end up where we are today, and there are a number of employees who've contacted me. I don't know if they've contacted anyone else who really like the insurance that we have. And a couple of things have changed. I guess the last time it went out for RFP, we only had one plan. So at that time, one of the changes that was made, not only from the provider at that time who didn't have as much representation in the county, but at the same time, there was no choice for employees. I believe what Mr. Nichols was referring to of my conversations is that one of the things the committee talked about in the spring was when there is open enrollment, that some people will call and have questions, but Sheila talked about having meetings and all around the county and no one coming, or just very few people coming to ask questions. And so one of the things that I had said to Mr. Nichols, and I'll say again, is this matters in your financial life as a private citizen, because it is the third largest purchase you will make. Your house, your car, and then with the amount of money you're spending on insurance, it's the third largest purchase. And when we all go to buy a house, or we all go to buy a car, or whatever we're going to make a large purchase on, we do a lot of research on it. Personally, I changed plans. I do have the county insurance, and I changed plans this year. It took me 3 hours. I did all the math. I sat on the phone with Sheila and Kirsten and got detailed information about prescriptions, deductibles, and it really takes a lot of work to really make sure you're getting the most bang for your buck. We do pay a lot. I actually know that in the private sector, often a high deductible health plan is all that is offered. Sometimes the PPO plans and the HMO plans that we have the luxury of providing aren't always offered. So I say all that to say, just because we don't know what the county commission has overall compared to us. And ironically enough, I had talked to an employee who retired from here. Her husband works for the county, and she has stayed on the retiree health insurance here because she felt like it was better. So I guess it's all just a matter of how people use the insurance. But we do. That said, I did sit in those meetings when in the spring when the insurance rates were given, and I think that there's a way to communicate news to people that they're not going to want to hear, and that was not communicated well to our insurance committee. Some have said they were offended, and I certainly was surprised that a business would be calloused to how our employees were receiving this information. I will say that part of my concern was that our brokers and our insurers' math didn't align, and it was very difficult when we were asking, or when the committee was asking, well, how did you come to this number? That was very difficult for anyone to answer. Again, they're a private company, and we live in a capitalistic society, and they have every right to have their formulaic math private, and they don't have to show it to us. But it made it difficult for the committee members to then go back to the employees and explain this. And so I will say that our brokers, who are very good sounding boards for the committee. They answer every question. They did not recommend a zero increase based on what they have seen out in the rest of the school districts across the state. So no one was expecting a 0% increase, but I believe it was something to the effect of they had recommended based on what they had seen across the state, like a 7.7% increase, and Florida Blue eventually came to a 9. It was not easy to come to that 9%. So I say all that to say that I think that our employees have asked us to go out for bid. I don't see the downsides of it, except that we open ourselves up to contractual changes, and that could mean plan changes. It could mean some unhappy employees that really like the insurance. It could mean any number of things, but at this point, I don't see a reason not to honor this request.
Ms. Gilhausen, you have anything?
I just appreciate that you've had the insight into the operation of the committee and where they're coming from, and I tend to agree that unless there's some egregious reason why we shouldn't do it, that we should honor the committee's recommendation.
Ms. Studdard?
Let me make one more comment here. If you are going to have an insurance committee, it's their responsibility, and they spend many hours on this, researching, vetting, doing. If you, any of us as a board member, if you're not going to listen to your insurance committee, then you shouldn't have an insurance committee. I feel that what you said, Ms. Condon, there's some validity there. We don't know what we'll get, who will bid. We don't know that it'll be better, and we certainly don't want to get the reputation of going out for bids every year. That would not be good. But there is so much unrest right now, with the lack of raises, and when people come back next year, they're making less than they made this year. I mean, it's depressing, and you heard I think the morale is pretty low right now, and if there's any chance that this might help, let's try it.
I would just echo everybody's sentiments. I just want to say, Mrs. Smith, it takes a lot of courage for you to make a copy of your pay stub and bring that up here and make that public information. It's very sad. I just want to say it takes courage to do that, and I appreciate you sharing that. This is my only concern. I think I share the same concerns. We don't know what's going to happen. We could end up in a worse situation where we get stuck with Florida Blue again, and then we're back where we started from, or even worse. I think with respect to Ms. Condon's statements about there are some employees, and I don't know what that number is, of people who are perfectly happy with the insurance and they like it. I think about if we change all these people that will have to change prescription drug plans, and there's all kinds of changes going on. Just involves a lot of people. So that's really my only concern, and I just want to state that. But I will say this: I do respect the fact that we have an insurance committee and that they did all the hard work and that they're coming to us with a recommendation. And so I do have one question, though. One of our speakers mentioned that the committee, it was a 2-to-1 vote. How many people sit on that committee?
It actually was not a 2-to-1 vote. It was a 4-to-2 vote.
Yeah.
And I was wondering why, if there's 9 people on that committee, why were there only 6 votes?
Yeah.
So, to my knowledge, there were 2 representatives not there.
But that's 8, so where's the 9th one?
I don't really know I just know who comes to the meetings and who wasn't there. And so really I don't know the makeup of that. I will add, though, that the committee is extremely thorough. It's a good group of people that are very collaborative. Discussions are very productive, and their work is not done. In order to decide to go out for an RFP, they're committing to actually a lot more work on their own part. That committee work is done on their own time, and from what Sheila and Nancy have told us, that we're looking at probably weekly meetings when it gets into the spring, once the bids come back, and then the reviewing. The other thing that the committee did discuss doing that was worthwhile was doing some employee survey kind of things to look at the satisfaction and where the satisfaction was. The only other thing that I'll add is that one of the highest places that our insurance saw an increase was in a section that is fairly new in the pharmaceutical world, and it's called specialty pharmaceuticals, and those are the ones oftentimes you see them advertised on TV, but things like some pretty remarkable treatments to cure things like hepatitis C, that in the past an employee or a family member or whomever, if they suffer from hepatitis C, they would have died, and or unless they got a liver transplant or something like that. And these drugs are truly miracles, that they truly can go through these treatments and survive, but the courses of treatment are upwards of $50,000 of treatment, and so that is the place that the plan saw the biggest increase. Obviously, that wasn't across, and there aren't huge uses of that kind of program, but it really showed me the humanity behind our plans, that if we have a program, and unfortunately everyone has to bear the expense. It's not like you can place it in certain places where those premiums go. So anyway, those are the things I wanted to add as far as the time.
Okay, Mr. Van Zandt, you wanted to speak to this issue.
Getting the eye from Ms. Gann, I did have one administrative note that I can't forget. It's written in red on my paper. The Director of Purchasing, Ms. Nancy Racine, must come off the committee as a voting member because she will be handling the RFP and the bids, and if you vote to do this, which it sounds like you are, and Ms. Gann will then be that voting member, and if you do approve it, then you need to take up the next item, which I think I had shared with you. If you didn't approve it for some reason, then you wouldn't have. Because Ms. Condon will become a voting member too.
Okay, I think that's right here. Is that item D4?
That's the next
Yeah,
item.
that's the next item. So two things have to happen. I just have to mention that my district representative from here forward, if we go for RFP, will be Ms. Sheila Gann, and Ms. Racine will no longer be a voting member on the committee.
Okay. Excuse me. So we had a motion. I forget who.
An hour ago?
Yeah, an hour ago. We had a motion by Ms. Studdard and a second by Ms. Karakis. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. And I just want to state for the record that the motion is to approve the recommendation of the insurance committee to go out for an RFP. Okay? All right. Okay, so our next item will be item D4. It says designate Vice Chairman Betsy Condon as a voting member for Insurance RFP Committee.
You don't have to choose me as the person, but
I'll move approval.
Hey,
And we appreciate you.
you're not weaseling out. But I do want to ask something. Why do we have to vote on this? Because they told me in the past that the board member goes to that's appointed to go to the insurance committee, that I was told by Ms. Gann, I think it was you, said that on the insurance committee, the board member doesn't vote. But on the RFP committee,
Unless you go
does vote. But on the RFP, no, wait a minute, backwards. But on the RFP committee, you do.
You're right. And
So why do we have to vote on it?
I think the committee wanted to, as an abundance of caution, because when Ms. McKenna made the assignments, they aren't actually voted on. So I think it was more of a consensus that you all wanted me to represent the board.
But you're not getting out of it, and I moved this item.
I have a motion by Ms. Karakis and a second by Ms. Studdard.
Okay, let's go.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0.
And Ms. Condon,
Okay.
thank you for doing
Yes,
that.
thank you
Really,
very
We
much.
can tell that you
Right.
really are very knowledgeable about it and very informed, so we appreciate the updates.
Okay, so you made the statement, we don't have to vote on the other statement, is that correct? Okay, all right, you made that, that's spoken into the record. Okay, the next item is D5, and this is just for discussion only. Present appointees to serve on the District Advisory Committee. Who, did you have that, Ms. Cornegay?
Yeah, it was
I think I
submitted
got
by
the
Ms.
list.
Cornegay.
Are we discussing?
I think we're discussing it.
Well, I seem to be the most derelict here of the group. I've only got one appointed, and everybody else has at least two. So I'd like to ask Ms. Cornegay if we can just extend this another month. It seems that several of us had trouble getting a community leader, and maybe the feedback I've gotten from a few people that in the last day or two that I've reached out to, nobody was really aware of it. And so maybe we can just run an ad in the newspaper. Parents are aware because they go to our school board website or the Facebook page, but
I think through the SAC committee, some of them got word.
yeah,
too.
but the community members, the few that I did talk to, were like, well, how was I supposed to know about that? You know, they're not going to our website. There's no reason for
I'm wondering
it. So
if we can put an advertisement or something
that's
in
what
the
I
Clay
think
Today.
we should do. So
Yeah. I think
that's what
I'm
we need to
asking
do.
if we could do that and then bring these back in November, if the board is okay with that, because
And-
I still haven't gotten
and-
all of my.
Okay,
May I have the floor?
Yeah.
I want further clarification. That's your word. I want to know on the business/community partner, the intent of the board. I was thinking about this. All right. You want the person to live in the district?
I think that was what we had agreed
Okay.
upon.
So if they lived in my district, but they have a business somewhere else, say a business on Fleming Island or Middleburg,
But they live in
but they
Orange
live
Park.
in the district, because that's what I was wondering about, because I thought, would someone do that maybe lived on Fleming Island but had a business in Orange Park? And I thought, well, that really muddies the water, so maybe we ought to just have it that they live in the district, and that way you'll have it throughout the county there. But I wanted to get your feelings on it, because I was not real clear on that, and I did want to suggest that we run an ad or something, because one of my ladies said that she heard about this at the SAC committee at her school, and but I was thinking a business person or a community, someone who's very involved in the community, they really don't have any way of knowing we're looking for them.
Right.
And so I would love to see an ad put in the Clay Today, maybe
Excuse me,
couple
sir.
weeks.
Excuse me, but
What's Tom?
can we please have some quiet in the audience? Thank you. We're
What-
trying to have a discussion up here.
Do you think maybe
Yeah.
a couple weeks or more in the Clay Today?
Yeah, I think a couple weeks is fine. Can we?
At least give them a chance, because they're not exactly beating our door down.
I
Right.
just want to
Yeah.
add, I hate to limit it to districts when we're having difficulty getting business partners. You know what I'm saying? If we say it has to be one from each district, we may not get one from each district, but we may have 6 or 7 apply, and 2 of them live in one district. Do you want to limit it?
You know, here's what I was thinking when we were first talking about the community or the business leader. I thought that the idea was that their business would be in the district because, they're the business partner, and so
Sure.
their business would be what,
Well,
for that
Right.
particular district.
Well, then
That's what
it's-
I was
Their
thinking.
business would have a relationship
Yeah,
to the schools.
Well, in
that
order
area.
not to get it all muddled up, why don't we just say a Clay County business or community leader, and not have to have district lines
I
on
think
that,
that's a
because
great idea.
we're so close with
Yeah.
Green Cove and Middleburg, and just say if somebody,
Okay.
I mean, Betsy, I think I saw somebody from Keystone on
Yeah,
yours.
I had only 3 apply, and
Well, you're
so
3 ahead of me.
they came, but I would say use good judgment. I mean, what we want this to be representative across the county, and I think if we can get that.
There was someone I was thinking of who actually has a business in Fleming Island but lives in Keystone, and so I'm glad you brought that up, because I wasn't going to ask, because I thought, well, doesn't live here, but it
I mean,
would-
the parents I can understand, because we've got an elementary and a
sure.
secondary parent, and they should be in your district, and that way we can
Right.
distribute it out throughout the county. But as far as the business person or community activist or whatever, and it doesn't matter if they do or don't have kids in the school,
Right.
right?
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So
All
Well,
right, so we're good
can
for that.
we have a delay on this and bring them back by next month?
So this was just an item
Yeah.
up for
So we're-
discussion.
we're- it's a
So
work in
can I-
progress.
Can I just ask, should we, I mean, what, I know that, I don't know if you all have, I let mine know that
I
they
did
were
too.
chosen.
I did too.
So,
I did too.
Yeah.
so just, should we let them know that we are going to delay, or?
I don't think we need to delay. I think we could move forward, and then as we develop partnerships, bring them on board.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it needs to delay the whole process.
Well, I don't think we should have an initial meeting until we have everybody appointed. So you can let them know, but maybe, since we're going to bring it back in November and then we're coming into the holidays, Ms. Cornegay, maybe you don't have your first meeting with everybody till January after the holidays. And that way, they know they're on it, but it's enough time, I mean, you certainly don't want to be setting up a new board in December.
I'd also recommend that if you have, maybe a week from now, have the names, go ahead and send them to me, and we can go ahead and move forward.
Okay.
We do have a number of business and community members who would be interested, so I am happy to connect you to any of those, which might be actually a better avenue, since through our academies and other school events, we have a lot of folks who I know would be happy to serve. So if you
is
want to
there-
contact me, I can connect you with some of those folks.
Well, do you want to put it in the paper or not?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would like you to run an ad in the paper because I'd like,
It's fine. We did push it out through Facebook and Twitter and
Yeah.
our app and other, every available avenue. But certainly we can put an ad in the paper. If that's
Okay.
what you
And
want
then
to do.
I think in addition, if you want to, can you send all the board members the names of the business leaders, and we can kind of look over it, and then maybe we can reach out to them, or
it's a good idea.
in addition to putting it in
That's
the
not too
newspaper
much.
and
Yeah.
Only thing is, if you send everybody all the same names, then these business partners are going to get phone calls from several board members.
Well, how many of y'all have already got your business?
I only
just
see
three of
two.
us. It's you,
One,
me, and-
two.
One,
There's
two.
3 of us who still need one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if you do an ad in the paper, you're not going to mention the parents, or
No, I think it's just for the community
Okay,
leader, because we've
okay.
already got the parents, so
yeah,
just the
everybody
community
but
leader. Yeah.
derelict over there.
Okay.
I had them. One backed out.
Okay, so we're good. We're good with that one.
All right. Thank you.
If you're a Fleming Island parent and want to be on the advisory
Call
committee,
Janice.
call Janice.
Hey, if you're a business person or involved and active in your community, just give me a call
Okay.
or
Okay,
email.
so we're good with that. Sorry, I lost my shortcut here. Okay. Okay, so our next item up, we move into human resources, item D6.
I move approval.
Have a motion for approval by Ms. Condon and a second by Ms. Karakis. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Human Resources Special Action B. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Have motion for approval by Ms. Condon and a second by Ms. Gilhausen. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Human Resources Special Action C.
I'll move approval.
Second.
I have a motion for approval by Ms. Gilhausen and a second by Ms. Studdard. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. And Human Resources Special Action D. I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval.
I have a motion for approval by
I'll
Ms.
second.
Studdard and a second by Ms. Gilhausen. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Okay. All right. Moving on to item D8, which is the public hearing to approve as advertised the 15-16 admissions and placement manual. So this is the actual public hearing? Okay. At this time, I'm going to open the public hearing, and we'll allow anybody from the audience who'd like to speak to this item. Okay, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the board, and I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
I have a motion for approval by Ms. Studdard and a second by Ms. Gilhousen. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Item D9, which is another public hearing to approve as advertised the 15-16 student progression plan. I will open that hearing. And anybody who would like to speak to that item? Okay, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for a motion.
Move approval.
I'll second.
Have a motion for approval by Ms. Gilhousen and a second by Ms. Karakis. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, item D8 has been pulled from the agenda for good. I'm sorry, D10. Thank you. Item D10 was pulled from our agenda for, I just want to say we had good cause for pulling this from the agenda tonight. We did receive a letter late this afternoon from the applicants for the charter school applicants, and they have withdrawn their application they've withdrawn their application. And looking for the letter that I got from them. So I got a letter from them, and I just wanted to say that, they had sent a letter, and they had indicated that, they said thank you for sharing your opinion. There were a number of sections that partially did not meet standards or did not meet the standards. We hope to demonstrate our willingness to meet or exceed all standards. You cited as an example our reliance upon outdated versions of Florida state standards that we relied upon for our application without knowing the version is now obsolete but still posted on the Florida DOE website. So there were a number of things there that were concerns in the application, and so what they have agreed to withdraw their application, and they agreed to continue to work with the district. They're going to work to close those gaps in the application and then resubmit for 2017. So that has been pulled from the agenda. And the last item we have is presentations from the audience. So there were several people that did put cards in that wanted to speak to that. We have Keith Nichols. Did you still want to speak to that? Okay. Smitty Huffman, did you still want to speak to that? Okay, you can.
Smitty Huffman, you have my card with the information on it. I have a pretty vast background in charter schools myself. I actually have worked for charter schools in Florida, Washington, D.C., St. Louis, Missouri, Kansas City, Syracuse, New York, Newark, New Jersey, along with Phoenix, Arizona, and Mesa Verde. I don't want to offend anybody here or any future politicians, but I do want to point out a couple things that the public's not aware of. First of all, charter schools are a business. A percentage of the funding of those charter schools, often 3 to 5 years depending on the contract, goes basically back to the management company or the owner of the charter schools. If a charter school goes out of business in a public school district, often it is at the expense of the students within that district. They are misplaced often. Sometimes there aren't schools available in the public school system because of that. Often they recruit the best students that the specific district has. And then they claim that they have these wonderful test scores, which basically are skewed because they've pulled the best from the region of that particular district, and at the same time, that particular district's regions, their test scores go down or have the appearance of going down. So that's something to keep in mind. The other thing I do want to point out, there's 300 charter schools in the state of Florida alone that have closed their doors. Now, studies have shown that their test scores are not any better than public schools. And the next things I want to say, I hope everybody on the board is not offended by this, but these are political issues. There are a few board members that had a very large portion of their financial campaigns supported by charter schools within this county. I believe the next time a charter school issue comes before the board, those particular school board members should recuse themselves from decisions of school board issues in direct relationship to charter schools. And if you are going to, in the future, run for a school board and you receive outside interest money, and a lot of times often from outside the county, regardless of whether it's charter schools or anything else, you should recuse yourself on a moral and ethical basis for that purpose. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smitty.
Can I just ask that
Yes.
Mr. Sykes speak to that, because that issue has been brought up before, and I would just like his legal opinion on that matter.
There is no blanket specific requirements of recusal as suggested.
Yeah, I would just say this. I mean, if you would be expected to recuse yourself from that, then every board member who took a contribution from the union would need to recuse themselves from any decision that was made regarding the union. So I think that's a ridiculous statement. Okay, thank you, Mr. Smitty. I mean, Mr. Huffman, Smitty
Ms.
Huffman.
McCannon, would you please acknowledge that the superintendent has left the meeting at 10
I was just
after?
going to do that, yeah. So I just want to state into the record that the superintendent did have to leave. There's a pending passing in his family, and he just got the text message, and so he's on his way right now. So Ms. Cornegay has taken the chair here in his place, so. Okay. Yep, okay. Our next request is from Donna Mace. Donna Mace?
Meeting's running late. My name is Donna Mace, and I reside at 3570 Russell Road here in Green Cove Springs. I'm here tonight to introduce myself to you. I am the local administrator for Opt Out Clay County. I am also, Opt Out Clay County is a group that is part of the Opt Out Florida Network. What we do is we advise parents on what they can do to avoid having their child to suffer through the FAFSA. They minimally participate. They do not hurt your 95% count. We have had parents. Well, we've made this decision this year to bring it into Clay County to support the stand that our superintendents are taking in the whole state, that the test is not valid. Very simple. We have had parents that have already spoken to their teachers that their child would be participating minimally, and I'm now getting phone calls that they have been told not only will their child have to endure the sit and stare policy, which is foolish, but their child will also sit facing the wall during testing. I don't believe that that's the policy this board wants to put into place, so I'm here to ask you now early to develop a policy that will be used for these children that is a little better than facing the wall for 2 hours for an 8-year-old. Over 20,000 children in Florida last year opted out. They received an NR2 score. We anticipate doubling, tripling, maybe quadrupling that number this year with the uproar over the FAFSA fiasco, and I just wanted this board to have the opportunity to prepare how you want these children handled as a district, so parents aren't getting told by teachers and principals their child to be facing the wall for 2 hours. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. McCannon, can
Yeah.
I ask
Yep.
Ms. Cornegay, can you tell us how we're handling that in our district? I've not seen anything, policy or writing. It's not been brought up, so.
So by state statute, the students are to take the test, but so we've had some parents last year who did request that their child not take the test, and we've just dealt with those on an individual basis. We did not have a lot who asked for that opportunity, and we just worked with them individually to ensure that their child had the data that they needed. So we will certainly have some internal conversation and look to see how we might want to address that in the future.
We're not making them sit and stare at the wall, are we?
I would hope not.
I mean, can they read a book for 2 hours? I
Or
mean,
how about go out and play on the playground?
They'll all want to opt out.
Yeah. No, but honestly, sitting and reading a book
Yeah.
quietly seems, let them go to the library or something.
That's what I was going to say. I know when parents opt their students out of, say, a guidance counselor's coming in to talk about something that a parent doesn't want their child to be a part of, then a lot of times those children will go sit in the library, or there'll be a designated location for them to go and study or read, like you said. I think that would be the best approach.
How many students did you have last year, and how many do you anticipate for this year that will be opting out?
I can't give you a number.
Less than 100 last year?
Oh, yes. Yeah, far less than that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, our next speaker is Christopher Trahan.
Good evening. Christopher Trahan. My address is on the card for the record. I've dedicated 8 years of my life to this profession. For the past 3 years, I've watched political agendas systematically dismantle public education. I've watched employees' salaries continue to decrease, failing to keep up with the cost of living and insurance. If this situation continues, this county will be facing several new crises in the form of teacher shortages and a falling standard in the educational experiences of our students. This second point hits particularly close to home for me at this moment. 2 years ago, I had a student transfer into one of my history classes. I don't know if the student realizes it, but they were on my radar from day one. My concerns were confirmed within a few short weeks when I saw the one thing that every teacher dreads finding. The bands around her wrists slipped, exposing slash marks. I reported the incident and had her escorted to the clinic. Upon investigation, it was confirmed that the slash marks were healing and that there had been no reoccurrence of this situation for some time. Unfortunately, a few days later, the story changed dramatically. That same student walked into my class with fresh cut marks from earlier that morning, called my administrator and had her escorted to the clinic when she was hospitalized from there. This particular student reminded me that this past Friday marks her 2-year anniversary of being cut free. She is now an AP student, a member of my honor society, and is making plans to apply to UNF, and is truly making the most of her senior year. The turnaround that this student has made is nothing short of a miracle. But I have to ask myself, despite the small role that I've played in her story, what would have happened if I had not been there? How would this story have ended if I decided that I could no longer afford to stay in this profession because my salary did not keep up with the cost of living? How long before somebody had noticed her? The possible answers to this question, or to these questions, terrify me. Instead of a bright young lady, this county could be looking at yet another teenage statistic. I wonder how many teachers have stories like this one. Personally, I have 3. I respectfully remind this board that we cannot do our jobs effectively without your support, and that support starts with a sustainable, livable income. We are your boots on the ground. We are your front line. We are the eyes and the ears in the classroom, and we are their teachers. The lack of support that this board has shown its employees is repugnant and represents a moral and ethical failure of the gravest proportions. If we don't step up, who will? Your decisions not only affect us, but they ultimately affect the students that we serve.
Thank you, Mr. Trahan. Kim Stacy.
My name's Kim Stacy. Address and records on the record. I am saddened tonight. I come and I speak for what I feel is right. And I know I'm putting myself out there when I do this. And actually, I wasn't really going to speak tonight because I was letting some of the other ones that knew more about the insurance and stuff like that do that. But yesterday afternoon, when I returned to work and I went to check my mail, my hours have been cut. My route has been cut. And I have not got a good explanation for that at this point in time. So, with that speaking, I am glad to hear that we are going to go outwards and try to find better insurance for ourselves. Because at this point in time, the hours that they just took from me, I will no longer be able to insure myself. I will be without medical insurance. I have medicine I have to take on a regular basis. I will no longer be able to afford that. And I truly believe that the reason why they did that is for retaliation on me for speaking out here at these school board meetings. I truly hope y'all look into this.
Thank you. Karen O'Keefe. Okay, thank you. Rebecca Smith. I think she left as well. Okay, Tracy Butler.
We have lots of teachers tonight. We had a very good turnout from the teachers and the support last school board meeting, and we know that it is difficult to get them to come out every single time. So what we asked of them this time was that the teachers all go on a writing campaign. So we have a few gifts for you guys tonight.
Yeah, if you can put them right over there on that table. No, well, we've directed them to put them on the table. They're going to put them over there. We'll get them after the meeting.
I know that you guys found out about this, and I knew that you wanted to steal my thunder, so I appreciate that, Ms. Kennan, for stealing my thunder. But I'll tell you what, here's one of the things I want you to know about those. We did not open the ones that were sealed. Also, those are not just from union members. They're from anybody who wanted to write. There's over 1,000 letters there. I think the biggest theme that you're going to see in those letters is folks signing them anonymous. I'm afraid. I'm broke. I'm afraid of retaliation. I don't want to put my name down there because I'm afraid that something will happen to me. The culture and the climate in this district right now is so sad. Okay? If I'm reading through all of those and I don't even know who they came from, and I'm thinking to myself, these people are so afraid to even write their name on a letter to their elected official, then something is seriously wrong. And I'll tell you, I know how they feel. Because as Ms. Kim Stacy just got up and said, we are seeing several incidences in transportation of retaliation. And I will be getting with Mr. Brodsky about that. It's unacceptable. We're not going to stand for it. When we bring these union folks together, this is a concerted union activity, and you can talk to Mr. Sykes about what that means. They are protected under Chapter 447. And any retaliation against them is charged for unfair labor practice. Now, as I said before, I already have one unfair labor practice. I've got an arbitration. We've got 2 impasses. So to your point earlier, Ms. Karakis, we are going to incur a lot of expenses because, as you know, a very expensive law firm handles all those things for you. And so I can't wait to see what that bill is going to be. I'm sad that I couldn't hand each of those to you because we made sure. Oh, by the way, the president said she wants her boxes back, too, to deliver that message to you. I wanted to say a couple of things. When you're asking folks about their insurance, you can't ask the folks who make $100,000 about their insurance, okay? That doesn't hurt them to have to pay a $75 copay for their prescription, okay? It hurts somebody who makes $8.52 an hour. That's who it hurts, okay? So please make sure that you're directing your questions to the right people.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. McKinnon, I have a comment.
Well, okay.
And it has to do with what Ms. Butler just said, and Ms. Stacy, and Ms. Cornegay, and Mr. Brodsky. I'd like you to to both look into the allegations of retaliation, because tonight just alone, Kim Stacy, Rebecca Smith, and Keith Nichols have all commented that their routes have been cut.
Right.
Their hours have been cut.
That
And
doesn't sound right.
And they are the three people who come and stand up for what they believe is right. And they have every right to come before us and share their views without being retaliated against. And I would hope that that's not happening in our district. So I would like to ask that be looked into, please.
Yeah, why would their time be being cut? $40.
I'll specifically, well, it's on the record that we'll request that to be done. And Ms. Butler, I just wanted to say something about the letters. First of all, I appreciate the letters. I know it takes time for people to write those, and I will certainly read my share. But, you know, I personally, when I get a letter, I don't talk about a letter that I received or who that was from with any district staff person. And so I would sure hope that you would not think that I would divulge that kind of information to the superintendent or any staff person at the risk of that person being retaliated against. When somebody writes me a letter, I recognize that they write that to me in confidence, and I keep that in confidence. So I just wanted to share that with you, that I don't share that information, and I would never do that because I recognize that people are doing that in confidence. So I just want to assure you and the people who are writing those letters, whether they put their names on them or not, that I keep that in confidence. Okay?
Jonna?
Yes.
Are those letters considered public record?
Well, yes, I do believe they are.
So they can't necessarily be confidential.
They can't be confidential, but to her point, she said that, I mean, they could put their names on them or they could not put their names on them, but her point is that people feel they can't put their names on them because they're being retaliated against, and that is clearly a violation of policy. And, I mean, I work in the business world, and we have spirit and letter policies that are totally against that, and I do not support that kind of I don't support that kind of behavior, retaliation. And so if people are fearful that they can't put their name on a letter to their elected representative, I personally have concern with that. So
I don't doubt it, though.
Yep.
Yeah, they are afraid.
Okay, Ms. Butler, you actually had two cards, one representing CCEA and the other one representing CESPA, so I wanted to give you your last 3 minutes.
I would get that, so I tried to cram everything in there. And I do wear two hats. I wear the hat for the support folks, and I wear the hat for the teachers. I did have I wrote a couple little notes here. Something was said earlier about the violation of school board policies. We've got a lot of things going on like that. Violation of school board policies, violation of the contract, hence the reason for grievances. Been filing grievances like crazy. We have so the contract's being broken, policies are being broken. We don't mind bringing those to your attention when we find those. As Renali did with the what happened earlier. I did make a note here about the money going to be spent on lawsuits. I'm sad to see that you guys passed that change, because now we all know what's going to happen. We're going to get those folks right back in here, and it's going to be right during the season of school board policy elections. So that's going to play very well into that plan. Oh, I did want to say this. The other day I was sitting in Mr. McCornegay's office, and Mr. Van Zant came in there, and he said something I kind of was taken aback by. He asked me, why did I think that he was supposed to give more responsibility to his district administrators and his school administrators and yet not pay them for it? And I said, yeah, I did. And the reason why is because if you work in the business world, as I have also, you know that when you are cutting budgets and you're cutting corners to save money and build your budget, you do it across the board. And that is what our big argument and our big rub is with this impasse and everything else. And that's why our buttons say that your budget reflects priorities. I cannot wait to go before a special magistrate and tell them that while we gave increases to folks, and Mr. Van Zant likes to say, oh, it's because we promoted them, we have to give them increases. No, you don't. We have teachers out there sitting with more kids in their classroom than they're supposed to have by law. Do we give them more money? We have bus drivers driving more kids. Are we giving them more money? We have specialists out there who are taking on more kids than they're supposed to in their ESE classes and everything. Are we giving them more money for added responsibility? No, we're not. Okay? So apparently what it comes down to is we're going to give more money to the folks that sit up there and drink the coffee and enjoy their day all day long. And I've sat up there with them. I know how it goes. It's a very relaxed atmosphere down at the district during the day. Now, don't get me wrong. I think they do work. But not like these folks, the troops, the boots on the ground, the people who have to do the work, who do not get breaks to go to the bathroom, who cannot say, I'm sorry, kids, but I'm going to run out here because I need to take a break. I've got to get my mind together. No, I'm going to go sit down and drink my coffee in peace. No, that doesn't happen for them. So, big difference in culture.
Thank you, Ms. Butler. Okay, that wraps up presentations from the audience. Superintendent request. Ms. Cornegay, have you got anything that you'd like to share?
No, I would just ask that you please keep Mr. Van Zandt and his family in your prayers this evening.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, school board requests. I'll start with you, Ms. Studdard.
I have none.
Wow. Ms. Gilhousen.
I just want to say what a wonderful week it was to celebrate our founding fathers, and I thought that was a great addition to the school year. And I have the privilege of having a child in our district, and so going to pick him up from school every day and seeing all the red, white, and blue was really inspirational. So I want to say kudos to the teachers and the principals and all the staff that participated in that and made it such a great success.
Ms. Karakis.
I don't have really anything, nothing much, but I do want to remind everybody, every one of our schools, it seems, the CCA has put a collection box out there, and they are collecting things for Ronald McDonald House. Oh. And I believe, Ms. Butler, maybe you can help me on this. Is it toiletries they're collecting, or what are they collecting for Ronald McDonald House? Right. It's the shampoos, conditioners, body wash, soaps. So we're asking all the parents and anybody out there who would like to contribute. Every school has a collection box, and they do go to Ronald McDonald House, and they're put to good use for families who really do need them. So that's all. I just thank you and wish everybody a good month till we see you next month.
Ms. Condon.
I guess I do have a few things. I wanted to first make mention that the News for Jax Team of the Week this week is from Clay County. It is a group that's called Beat the Streets. It's a nonprofit organization that helps provide after-school activities. Who does have the facilities use agreement and all that, because I knew that they did not have that in place, and they work. Mr. Merrill's office worked to help them get that. But they are a group that has brought wrestling to Keystone Heights. They have, I believe it's 25 kids from elementary on up through high school that are participating in that program. They were able to bring world champion and Olympic gold medalist Rulon Gardner to come and give an inspirational talk to the students. And one of our teachers, Richard Marshall, is who has brought that. He has an affiliation with that nonprofit group Beat the Streets, and that they've come in and they really care a lot about the kids and have provided some things. If you know anything about the Keystone area, one of the challenges is that our schools get out at 1:50 or 2:45, 2:55 in the afternoon, but a lot of the parents that live in that area have to commute to Gainesville or Jacksonville for work. So oftentimes kids are latchkey kids, and they go home to empty houses, and so this provides a real good item. So if you happen to watch the News for Jax piece, it's on their website. It's on the Keystone High School website, and it's being shared out there, or I guess it's on the Facebook page. But anyway, that's being shared out there, and real shout out to Mr. Marshall and that group. I also wanted to mention that I attended the Northeast Florida Coalition of School Boards meeting yesterday, and they passed a legislative delegation, or legislative priorities very similar to what what ours are. They asked for some additional things that they for testing and assessment. Theirs mirror ours. They're asking for paper pencil options until such time as the digital mandates are funded across the state and ready for implementation. Then they also have a very similar bullet point in there that the FADS and the FSBA language about testing and accountability. They had 3 bullets about charter school accountability. They're asking for the legislature to support increased local control in charter school application reviews by allowing districts to take both academic and financial past history of charter school operators into account as part of the application evaluation. To support increased accountability for public dollars by prohibiting a charter school from opening within the vicinity of a traditional public school with available capacity, and to oppose any proposal to redistribute a portion of the district's 1.5 capital outlay millage to charter schools. Under school safety, they're also asking the legislature to require individuals making public records requests at a school site to check in with proper identification, which aligns with protocol for all other individuals entering schools. This is, again, for school safety. Anonymous requests can continue to be made through district offices. And then under capital outlay, they have asked the legislature to support the restoration of the 2.0 capital outlay millage. And then I guess I'm sorry.
Explain to the people how this came about. You know, how it's the coalition is actually
Yes, so
5 counties, and we sat down and.
Sure. The Northeast Florida School Boards Coalition represents 6 public school districts and over 200,000 students across the Northeast region of Florida. It's Nassau, Duval, Baker, Flagler, Putnam, Clay, St. John's. Am I missing anybody? I think that's all. Anyway, it's a group that gets together every so often, and really for the goal of giving Northeast Florida a voice and school board members. And it's also a good opportunity for us as school board members to kind of find other people in the same positions to, you know, if you've had questions or that kind of thing. One thing I will mention that they discussed yesterday that I hadn't heard in our district, and I hope this is not happening in Clay, but that both Flagler and St. John's, more Flagler than St. John's, had seen an increase in mental health issues with students associated with the testing and assessment, that they were seeing some real issues with that. So I know that Francis and our social workers are all over that, and I appreciate the work that y'all do, because I hadn't heard of anything like that going on in our district, and I don't know if there's any issues there, but certainly that's a concern. These kids have enough pressure on them. And then Mr. Christensen made mention that I did speak at the legislative delegation here in Clay County, and I just wanted to give a few points that I brought up there. I reminded those legislators that the Florida Constitution gives school boards, local school boards, the exclusive power to operate, control, and supervise all free public schools within the school district. The State Board of Education shall have supervision of the system of free public education as provided by law. And so there's been a lot of discussion with groups within the state as far as how far Tallahassee can actually go with requiring a lot of these assessment things and such. And we do appreciate and want to maintain that local control over such things as curriculum selection and things like that, so that our experts can make sure that our kids are educated the best that they can. I also told our legislators that we in Clay County schools, I haven't heard anyone who says that they don't appreciate well-designed assessment systems as having a critical role in student success, but used as a supplement to curricula focus, and so that teachers, again, the expert educators, can use them in a more diagnostic fashion with their lesson planning, less of a of a do or die kind of thing. We do support rigorous standards, just not the ones that have not been designed by educators. And then I talked a little bit about money. I talked about some of the other things that are out there, but I won't bore you with those statistics. If you want them, I'm happy to talk all day long. But I did say this to them. According to Florida State University, one of our esteemed universities in the state, and this is not my opinion, this is what their research has shown, since 1989 and 90, the state of Florida has increased the amount of accountability and focus on education. At the same time, that same state legislature has decreased the percentage of the state budget going toward education from 34% to approximately 25%. That includes the amount they're giving to higher education. So the amount they're giving to K-12 education is much less than that. The U.S. average per pupil is $11,735 after regional cost differential. And certainly we know that in the state of Florida, we are far below that by upwards of more than $3,000. Additionally, Florida is 46th in the nation in school spending. We do rank high in one category. It's called equity. What that means is that the federal law requires that states spend their money equitably across their population, and Florida, I guess, is pretty good at that. The FEFP, they have said, is second in the nation in equity as far as how we spend it, but again, 46th in the nation in education spending, 43rd in teacher pay, are averaging $8,000 below the national average. And in 1982, we were 20th in the nation in per pupil money, so we've definitely dropped. And I guess I share all that to say I got a little bit offended at the last meeting when someone made the comment about board members are just praying over the budget and not doing something about it. And I will assure you, I am doing everything that I can. I've spoken to those legislators. I've got a number of pending bills that are going before our legislature in the next session that I would oppose for various reasons, some of which have to do with funding, some of which don't, some of which have to do with policy. And I'm going to fight for the kids of Clay County. I'm going to fight for what we have committed to on our legislative priorities. But additionally, this has to be fought on a national level. This has to be fought in Tallahassee to get our legislators to put the money back toward education that they had back in 1989 and 90. And then the only other thing that I would add to that is that right now, the only person who can stop the school grades from being issued on these tests that every expert that has looked at believes are invalid is the governor. And so if they don't release those grades until January, then our legislature will be back in session. And so I would encourage you to contact them and ask them to pass legislature to set aside those grades for the 14-15 school year so that we can use them as field testing data. But from what one of the legislative experts at yesterday's Coalition of School Boards said is that there is not an appetite right now in Tallahassee to do that amongst our legislators. So there are a number of letters floating around the internet that are just click and send to Governor Scott to ask him, and they're very reasonable. They're not, kind of far out there letters, but asking him with good reason why we should set aside those school grades. So I know I could talk all night about this kind of stuff. No, I'm not. I'm not campaigning for anything. I'm campaigning for our kids, and so at that, because I'll tell you, because I got really mad overnight when my 7th grader had to not go to his first period class today, which happens to be an online in his computer lab, so that my 11th grader could retake a test from the FSA last year, and I don't really know why he had to retake the test, but it just irritated me that one child had to leave their classroom so they could have computer space so another could go in there and take the test, and so I got mad all over again, and anyway, here we are. So, at any rate, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Condon. Okay, I only have a couple things, just kind of want to mention this. So I got an email from Matthew Lose, who he is affiliated with the Pine Ridge Community Development Board, I guess. Anyway, Pine Ridge is where the Clay Charter Academy has been is open this year. And this is he sent an email to myself, Commissioner Bola, and Sheriff Beasler regarding a concern over pedestrian crossing without any crossing guard or crosswalk there or anything. They're very concerned about safety out there. And so this came up before, and I was told that that was something that had to go through the Sheriff's Department, so I reached out to Sheriff Beasler. Sheriff Beasler basically said that he cannot establish a school zone at will. There are specific DOT requirements which must be met. He did say that he would have his traffic division and the DOT survey that area to see if those requirements are met. But he also indicated that he said that partial payment for crossing guards comes from the school board, from their Safe Schools money. And he says in a contract with the sheriff that has not seen an increase in payments to the CCSO in 10 years, with the BCC absorbing all the cost. And so they're going to take a look at the area, and I told Mr. Lose that I would bring that up, and I obviously expressed that concern. I have family that lives out in that area, and so I just wanted to know, as the school board, what, in terms of getting that set up out there and our responsibility to share a portion in that.
Is this for the charter school, for the new
Well,
charter school?
it's right there by Tynes Elementary. So you have a new new phase of a housing development going in there, and there's a huge increase in traffic out there, partially because of the charter school, but also because of all those new homes that are being built out there.
Madam Chairman, you said the letter went to Commissioner Bola and the sheriff and you, and probably the best thing that I would suggest is that you turn this over to Mr. Merrill and let him handle it, because that gets, the board doesn't get into the day-to-day, but Mr. Merrill would be the one to coordinate and get into that. So you should just forward this to Mr. Merrill.
Has he contacted you? Because I did ask him to contact you, Mr. Merrill.
Anything.
No, Mr. Merrill. He hasn't contacted you? Okay. I did. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. And then the only other thing that I just wanted to mention was at the end of last month when we did have Founders Week, I know Ms. Gilhousen spoke about that. I really, really enjoyed that week. It was on Friday, September 25th, which was my birthday. And Ms. Butler, I just want you to know that I finally fulfilled my promise to you to ride a school bus. I did. I actually enjoyed it. I spent the majority of the day. I started my morning out at the bus depot or the bus area, and was able to ride a bus route. And let's see, I got picked up at Rydot Elementary and rode a route all the way around to Lake Asbury Junior High with those kids. That was quite fun. And then I spent the day with Mr. Umbaugh. And we visited several elementary schools. I got to sit in on an art contest at S. Bryan Jennings Elementary and watch some kids color for Founders Week. That was a lot of fun. And then we went to W. Cherry and then on over to Orange Park High School, where I actually got to participate or got to be involved in the what is that academy where they do the cooking? It's the the Culinary Academy. So apparently they were having a contest out there where 4 or 5 high school culinary academies were coming together, and it was kind of like a cook-off, So that was really interesting. Got to see that in action, and it was really a good time. And so I just wanted to publicly thank Mr. Umbaugh and all those who kind of made that a fun day for me. So with that, I don't have anything else. I just want to wish everybody a happy weekend, and the last attorney's request.
It's just real quick. It's Breast Cancer Awareness Week.
Yeah.
Get yourself checked. My wife is a breast cancer survivor. She got herself checked, and it saved her life. So get yourself checked.
Okay, thank you. At that, I will adjourn the meeting. Yeah, I got to give them to Ms. Bush. Why do you want?